This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Of all the variety of circuits that the majors run, today's track is perhaps the most challenging. Undeniably the longest lap they will face all season long, simply memorizing the course is in itself a difficult undertaking. The Nürburgring's incredible number of corners and severe lack of runoff means it's tough enough to run by yourself. But today's drivers will not only have to worry about driving with a single class, but 3 different classes to deal with. And to add to the pressure, it's the return of the Predator format. We'll see who survives the green hell as we get ready to watch the 2.4 hours at the Nürburgring. And you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel and the iRacing Esports Network. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth tonight is Bill Soup Zahn. Next to him is our resident ring expert, Sean Ambrose. Behind the scenes is our director, the Dr. Amjad Yaman, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Sean, this is a track I suspect some of the championship contenders will be glad to see put behind them after today.
You know, you mentioned the green hell. Words really can't do this justice. I'll just give you a couple of quick details. How about we go with that, all right? It's big. It's beautiful here in the beautiful Eifel Mountains, Germany. It's 170 turns, Joe. 170, 15.77 miles. Yeah, that's just a tick over 25 kilometers on your clock. This is the 24-hour layout that they run, and we have here on iRacing in Nürburgring, Germany, and it's a beautiful circuit with lots of great names, and those turns, well, they can be quite frightening and quite dangerous. The best way, though, to really take a place that words have no meaning, let's take a hop on board for another GSRC lap here around the Nordschleife.
All right, we've got Jeff Garzato in the GSRC Porsche, so let's do a lap around the Nürburgring. The Yokohama S is going to provide an ideal place for overtaking. However, be wary because this chicane is rather tight and it can be easy to trip over one another if you cross racing lines. Since we can't show a full lap, we're going to skip ahead to the NGK chicane. It's a bit swifter in this layout, essentially making passes more risky. But you may find yourself tempted into trying it if you're behind a slower car, because up next we're emptied into the Nordschleife. This is the much more dangerous and harder to pass portion of the track, as evidenced by the immediate lack of runoff with that wall to the outside. And if that doesn't convince you, then you've got the famous Flugplatz. Though the car won't get airborne, it's going to get very light, and you're immediately chucked into a fast double apex right-hander. You'll pick up speed from here and eventually hit the Swedish cross. Fast, blind, and forcing you into an unsteady entry for Edinburgh, this section has gobbled up its fair share of drivers over the years. Passes are possible, but risky. Skipping ahead again, one of the trickier corners is Miss Hit Miss, so named for the desirable line of its 3 apexes. It also leads to what I consider one of the scarier braking zones here into Defense Valley. It's steeply downhill with a nasty kink and no runoff at the hairpin. Frightening stuff. Much scarier for Niki Lauda was the now eponymous Lauda kink, which is thankfully flat out on the Porsche. But it's followed by one of the most important turns of the lap, Bergwerks. You're going to be flat out and climbing uphill for a long time after this corner, so a late apex and good acceleration are critical. Eventually, close to the top, you reach perhaps one of the most famous turns in racing, the carousel. Keeping the car tucked into the banking not only ensures your speed, but keeps you from flying out into the Armco on the flat outside. Later on in the lap, you'll be going 4 wheels off the ground at Flansgarden. Amazingly, it chucks you directly into a fast, uphill double apex corner that eventually guides you along a quick set of S's. At the end of those is Swallowtail, where you need the car to be steady under braking since you'll be slowing and turning at the same time. It leads to a blind crest at this left-hander, and then you plunge back down into the mini carousel. Faster and shorter than its cousin, it's not to be taken lightly since you can still trash the car by putting a foot wrong. Then you've got the aptly named Gallows Hill, where you can hang yourself by ruining a perfectly good lap in one fell swoop. This long sweeper eventually dumps you onto the Dottinger Hoa, which is the longest straight on the track. Fail to get a good exit and you're gonna be a sitting duck. Climbing to incredible speeds, this all ends at Tiergarten and Hohenrad. These gradually tightening corners are designed to slow you up before you re-enter the modern GP course. But they're still incredibly dangerous in their own right. Lose control and it's gonna be a big one. Survive all that and you're back onto the pit straight where you can only relax for a moment because you've got to do it all over again. But hopefully you've now finished a lap around the Nürburgring. You see a few of the highlights around this circuit, and honestly, that's a really truncated version. There were still things that we couldn't show that are equally as challenging around the track. Bill, we have a number of different types of racing now, and I think we're starting to get a better picture of this championship. Tell us about the points and how things are looking as we come to probably one of the toughest tracks that we're going to face.
We'll start with the American region here because that's where we are. We'll look at the pros. Blake Reynolds sitting at the top. Now, notice he has 900 points. I believe what has happened here is they've started to take into account drop races because he has more points last time. So they're taking him one drop from a road, one court, one drop from an oval. We don't have those totals for you on the overlay there. We'll have those for you next week. Reynolds out in front, but only by 67 points on Last Nasir. Eric Smith has been doing really well as well. How about Dallas Pataska? Up a couple spots making the overlay, as is Travis Warling. Let's go ahead and look at the team championship. Now, this is where it really gets interesting. Alliance, who has been really having a slow start to the season, finally comes back, jumps to the top, 4,001 points. When you look at the interval between first and second, 49 points considering it's 4,001 for the top one. That's basically nothing if you start doing the percentages. Riding Shotgun Motorsports, the Outlaw team, sitting down there in second. Kinetic always does well. The Big Loser V Apex group, they fall down 3 spots, and then Unorthodox Motorsports. Let's go ahead and look at the Sportsmen now. We don't get to see all these guys all the time because they don't always make our broadcast. A little bit of jumping around going on up top. 569 points for Cully there. Goes all the way down 106 back for Kyle Murphy, who falls a few spots. Finally, to the Americans, the Legends version here. We'll look at Brian Bennett up a spot to the lead. That is some age pastrami there for Bob Beltrami as he moves up 3 spots, only 4 back of the Legends lead. Good for him. Jimbo Pfeiffer, you see him sitting there as well. Wayne Hutchinson falls a few spots. The Popsicle Man, Brian Barnes, sitting in 4th. Joe?
Thanks for that update, Bill. Now, for the race details of today, let's take a quick glance at what we've got in store for you, our viewers. There are 3 different cars, and we'll go over how the Predator formats with these 3 very different cars: the Porsche 911, the Kia Optima, and the MX-5. The race itself will be 2.4 hours. It's 144 minutes, essentially 2 hours, 24 minutes for those who are wondering, and about 14 laps that they'll be able to do. The setups on all 3 cars are open, and they have no fuel restrictions, but there will definitely be pit stops. They have an incident cap, so you can't get disqualified. Lord help you if you somehow accrue 66 incidents and the car is still running. But the spare car may come in handy in that, as you can see that they do have in their pocket if need be. Of course, as we watch them warm up, we just want to remind you that this race is brought to you on the iRacing Esports Network. If you get a chance, please head over to their YouTube page if they're not there already. Click the subscribe button and you'll get all of the majors races in your YouTube feed. Now, we also want to encourage everybody, if you've been enjoying the majors, to help support them by going to their store where they sell a little bit of gear. You can find that at pacificmajors.com/store if you're interested in buying some swag. And the majors are also doing something special this year by allowing members to nominate charity causes for each round. Drivers can buy extra qualifying attempts that money goes towards each round's cause. Race 5's charity is Autism Speaks. Autism Speaks is dedicated to promoting solutions across the spectrum and throughout their lifespan for the needs of individuals with autism and their families. They do this through advocacy and support, increasing understanding and acceptance of people with autism spectrum disorder, and advancing research into causes and better interventions for autism spectrum disorder and related conditions. Autism Speaks enhances lives today and is accelerating a spectrum of solutions for tomorrow. You can find out more at autismspeaks.org. Now, this is just the warm-up. The qualifying was happening earlier. And Sean, I mentioned this is the Predator format. We haven't used that yet this year, even though it was frequent in previous seasons. So for our viewers that haven't seen the Predator format yet, explain a little bit of how this works.
Sure. And I'm going to make it really, really simple here, okay? They're going to let the MX-5 start this race. They're going to get a head start, folks. That's how this works. They're going to get an 11-minute and 25-second head start over
11 minutes and 25 seconds. That's
11 minutes and 25 seconds. That's a little over a lap, basically, okay, for the Kia. Now, again, 11:25. That is when the Kias will be ready to roll, and they'll be off to the green flag. Now you got to know, well, when do the Porsches get to go? Well, at 22 minutes and 20 seconds. They get released. So the MX-5 start this race, and then almost 25 minutes later, 22:20 to be exact, the 911s finally get to roll. Now, guys, give me just a moment. Let me riff here, okay? I just want to throw this out there. So in the international region, okay, the 911 won the race. You would think, okay, that's pretty natural. It's probably the more powerful car. It wins the race. The MX-5 actually came in second. In that race, overall in second period. Daniel Stevens was the closest Kia. He finishes 8th, so 8th overall, and that was your first Kia in the field. Then we go to the European split, which was just a little bit earlier today on Race Spot. David Barraclaw wins that race in his Torque Freak Kia, folks, in his Kia. Dirk Fitterman finishes right behind him in his MX, or not right behind him, I'm sorry. Dirk Fitterman finishes 5th overall in his MX-5, and then you've got to go all the way down to 9th place overall, where you find your first Porsche 911, and that was Christian Challoner for Kinetic Europe. So I'm confused, guys. I don't really know what's going to happen. I just know when they're going to let the who do they let out of the gate? The horses, right?
There'll be little horses. There'll be ponies. They'll be full-grown horses because they don't run so fast. So if I have attention deficit disorder, I would rather be in the faster car because I don't have to race as long then. Am I is that right? I don't have to concentrate for the entire race.
You're running shorter, but for those who didn't quite catch exactly how this works, the very short version is all cars are racing in the same class. They've just put the faster cars at a disadvantage by starting them later. So it's whoever gets to the line first at the end of these 14 laps. And we'll have to watch and see which one. There's always just a little bit of controversy involved in these, but it is always exciting, especially down to the final lap as the cars get closer and closer together, and you wonder who is going to be able to get to the finish line first of anybody. Paul Slavonic, one of our drivers out there in the MX-5, currently for the Alliance team, who recently overtook the team's championship in the points. When you look at that, Bill, you mentioned the percentages on that and doing the quick math. It's the equivalent of them, if Alliance was leading by 100 points, the next team back would be 1 point back. So that's how close it is, yeah.
I'm not going to figure out those decimal points. I got it. It's really a thankless job for Mike Willett to try to get the stagger right of when they release these cars, because if it was the same driver in all 3 cars, it would be easy because you'd know what's going on, but he's got to take into account, well, Blake Reynolds kind of throws, your whole math off, right? If you got somebody who's really good in a car. So it's awfully tough to get right.
Well-
then he does try to weight it towards whoever's the fastest, and it's a case of, at least from what I understand, if you want to win in one of those cars and they've been weighted back a lot, well, get faster in that car, essentially.
No, I like it. It's a fun format.
So you come up through Kessel Chen towards the Moot Curve here in Gustavo Cianfrani. I feel like I'm still getting this name wrong. And he unfortunately is getting the corner wrong on the approach up there. Wildly different cars, these three. You can tell by just the lap times. And Sean, I mean, you've got a lot of experience, at least in the combination of the Kia and the MX-5 being together out here at the Nürburgring. And tell us a little bit about how these two cars differ in their handling and tackling this track.
Well, I think what we were talking about, the pre-race nightmares I still suffer from seeing the Kia come up from 5 miles behind us in the middle of the night here. But the handling is vastly different. Okay, now that of course the MX-5 somewhat always have been regarded as a lower powered car. Well, this lower powered car, actually a great car for this track. It handles very, very well around here. The Kia, on the other hand, is a very, very fast front-wheel drive machine that, quite frankly, under braking can get very messy in the rear end of the car because it is a front-wheel drive machine. Doesn't tend to have the grip level that you would find in the MX-5. And what does that mean when they get close to each other in some of the narrowest sections of this track? It generally means contact, and the Kia is a much bigger car than the MX-5. It's pretty deadly for the MX-5, to be quite frank. So racing together with them, generally not a wise choice. Giving them plenty of room to get by at a much higher rate of speed is generally the best thing to do. That's been my experience. Let's face it, we got to get around here for 2.5 hours, taking care of the car. Kyle Murphy just perfect example. You want to take care of the car around this circuit. It's really paramount to winning this event, taking care of the car. So equally as important as racing your opponent, more so than any other track that we'll see throughout the entire year.
The last of the warm-up ticks down. We're getting ready to go very, very soon. We'll go through that grid in a moment, but the sun is not going down. The sun is coming up. It's going to be a morning race, and it'll get hotter and hotter just to add to how tough it's going to be on the circuit as the sun continues to pound down on the blacktop as it gets higher in the sky. Checkered flag is out here in the warm-up, so we switch over to the grid, and it is going to be on the pole, Eric Smith up at the top, with Mark Torres starting in second. Jeffrey Garzotto starts third, and Paul Slavonic fourth. This is just the Porsches, by the way. We'll get to the rest, the other two, in a moment. Wade Hayes will be fifth, released. Tucker Minter sixth, Clark Archer seventh, and Liam Quinn eighth. Then it's Richie Hearn starting P9 with Lionel Callisto, former champion, starting in 10th. Trevor Clement will be 11th and Mark Schindel 12th. Cody Wyman will be P13 with Ray Partridge 14th and Michael Thompson in 15th. Then it's Paul Geringer in the 16th position. The last of the Porsches will be Dale Green in 17th. Bill?
And then I'll get the Kias. So those guys are going to be Travis Warling and Blake Reynolds. Those are two big names in that car. Matthew Thunhurst, Kevin Hill go third and fourth. James Stacy and Jeff Schmeier behind them in fifth and sixth. Rutger Cavs, Kevin O'Keefe, 24th overall, seventh in class. Andrew Oiki behind them. I'm not sure how far this goes, so stop me when I get done with Kias here. Kyle Murphy and John Roberts. After them, Peter Hebron and Marcus Tracy. Gustavo Giaffarini and Brian McGreevy. Good to see Brian racing with us. Rob Gall and Stephen Paulison. And we're done. Now over to Sean.
All right, and now we'll get to the mighty MX-5s who are rolling off now. Vincent L'Herbier will start on the pole there, right next to Scott Corbin. And then it's Brian Bennett, Dick Mueller, Dog Bear Racing's own in the number 16, Reed Miller in the 892, Ross Banfield, Samuel Scott, Paul Savlonic, racing for Lions number 528, Ben Collard. Starting at 262, Dustin Bernstein, Ryan Worley, Rob Powers, Jimbo Pfeiffer, Daniel Knight, Joshua Kanata, Zin Huang, and Brian Barnes. There are your MX-5s.
And I can report that Kyle Murphy is not actually in the Kias. He is in the MX-5s, and looks like he was incorrectly gridded, so he's been sent to the back. Meanwhile, they will be led by Vincent Leherbier, who's accelerating away, trying to catch up to the pace car. It's going to be a pretty single file start, I think. As you can see, the pace car's already in, and they are accelerating away before the green flag has waved. Now it is out here for round 5 of the majors at the Nürburgring. The GP course is going to be the first thing that they tackle, and they come up to the very sharp Yokohama S, a chicane to kick things off. Hopefully we get it nice and clean. We have one car coming together in third. I didn't quite see who that was making contact. Oof. Meanwhile, everybody else behind them relatively clean, so I think we are good.
Yeah, Mueller picked up some left front damage on that deal, Joe.
And that's going to be bad news, Bill. We were hearing before the race that some of the success of these MX-5s is going to hinge on how well they work together, because these are draft cars, slipstream cars.
Yeah, it's a long way around, and remember, they're racing cars that are in pit lane right now. It's all about being fast, putting in fastest lap times as possible. So yeah, you're not so much racing the guy next to you right now. You want as much help as you can to put in some good times, because the clock is running.
So really no point in trying to fight each other too much, although drivers at the back will probably want to be trying to make their way forward. As we ride on board with our leader, Leherbier. There's a bit of a battle still going on between Mueller and Bennett. That's for third place. Bennett's going to come out on top, and that brings Ross Banfield in behind them. A tight little group of 3 that you can see coming off the kink and up towards the Vidal chicane.
Joe, opening laps, just on this opening lap, I'm going to try and pick up as many positions here on the Grand Prix circuit while I can before I get to the Nordschleife, as Mueller gets that spot back from Bennett.
That moves him up to P3, and this is where the difficulty starts. Out onto the Nordschleife now, through the north curve. You can see they're pretty much single file through the field. Nobody interested in doing foolish moves on their first time around.
Oh, it's a little bit of, it's culture shock for me. I've called so many MX-5 races in my GSRC career. It is weird to see Vincent Leherbier out in one and Scott Corbin. And those names don't belong. Brian Bennett out there racing it. That's not right.
I can tell you that Ben Collard is also at the tail of the field. He's just gotten himself out there. He started from pit lane in his MX-5. So he's got a ways to catch up, but apparently wanted to stay out of trouble here at the opening. Now they hit some of the draft portions of the track as they come up towards Flugplatz. This car's not really going to get some air over here, but they're going to get light, and they're going to get pretty fast as they work their way towards the Swedish Cross. You can tell they're already gaining on the top drivers. Scott Corbin's been caught by Dick Mueller, and Mueller doesn't want to sit in third. He's trying to go for second place as they come into the Swedish Cross. Nice decision by Scott Corbin to kind of lift and let him through.
Mueller not letting that damage affect his run right now, Joe. That car is bad fast.
We had a problem with Paul Slavonic. He was off the course, and that was exactly because of what we talked about with Mueller going side by side. It was Ryan Worley instead this time who got to the inside of Slavonic.
Oh, there's a pass for the lead. We're going to see a lot of passes for the leads that are not going to be all that fought after. I'll tell you right now that Samuel Scott had his fingers crossed there that the car didn't come out and catch him.
And I wonder if in some of this, too, not only just the MX-5s working together, Sean, because you know how important fuel is around here in these MX-5, having been a crew chief. I wonder if anybody's going to try and maybe save some fuel, have an extra short stop, and try and...
Trouble, I'm sorry. Was that Daniel Knight?
It was.
Knight makes contact, and he's into the Armco barrier.
Jimbo
with
Pfeiffer.
Jimbo Pfeiffer, yeah. Is this in Metzgefeld?
Sorry, Joe. It was in Metzgefeld.
Oof, yeah, hard contact. He does have a spare car, but this brings up a good point, Bill. I was told it's much better to wreck towards the end of the lap
you would think,
than towards the beginning, yeah, because that's regardless.
Because they have to tow you all the way around. Is that how it's?
Well, either the tow or if you're limping the car around too. It's a severe penalty, and unfortunately, there's going to be some suffering from this one. Jimbo Pfeiffer, you can see, able to keep going, but does have damage on that right front.
Basically, they just give the drivers an Auto Club card, and they make the call, and they say, "Oh, we'll be there in about half an hour. Be out front."
Man, Sam Scott, Ryan Worley having a pretty good run. Scott just gets around Worley.
And Worley going to give chase. That might not have been the spot that Scott wanted to overtake, because now they come up through Kesselchen towards Stylstrecke. And I suspect that Worley is going to make an easy pass unless he wants to stay behind. Starting to reel him in. It's a long, steep uphill. I've driven the car for Sean. I can tell you that the cars actually lose speed. They are so down on power, and it's so steep. You peak at something like 107 miles an hour, and then suddenly you start to see the speedometer go downwards.
These two are having a little bit of fun.
Really not as interested right now. Oh, it is very tight ahead of them. Let's go to Brian Bennett. The cars are all stuck together. He is in a fight with Banfield and Corbin. They hit the carousel for the first time.
Oh!
That was Corbin to the inside, having to take evasive maneuvers. Ross Banfield goes up onto the flat, keeps it out of the wall. That could have been a lot worse.
Wow.
Boy, I'll say they dodged a bullet there as Scott Corbin gets into his back going.
All this messing around is really bad news for this group, because Leherbier and Mueller have stretched it out to nearly 2.5 seconds. Let's watch it from Mueller's viewpoint, because he is just flying up at the front. Seems to be one of the ring specialists. Let's listen in. Nice and smooth through here. Continues to lead. Leherbier behind him by about 0.7 of a second. So Vincent still within the draft and able to hold on to him. Come up to ice curve now. Through that, down towards one of the spots where you can get air in this car. Watch this, as they're going to get all four wheels off the ground. It was a little bit scary over that crest down through Flan's Garden.
So we're looking at lap times in the MX-5 of what, about 10 minutes, 20 seconds? And we said that the whole time on the Kias was what, about 11, what did I hear, 11 and a half, something like that? So
they're going to come out to have to lap them right away.
Yeah, they'll be right behind them, won't they? 11:25, so it won't be long till the Kias have some work to do.
And the MX-5s will have to be looking in their mirrors and be very careful. Through the second carousel. Oh, and before they even get to that, Scott Corbin and Swallowtail loses it all on his own.
It's been a rough first lap for him.
One of the kinetic drivers, a little bit too much kinetic force.
And not the first person to lose it there, Joe.
Certainly not.
How about a tip of the hat, though, to Scott? Kept the brakes on, let the entire field go by. with the exception of Kyle Murphy, who was back there, but before he backed it out onto the track. Nice job.
Up at the front, Mueller and L'Herbier are already on the Dottie Nerhoa. Look at the gap back behind them to Bennett. It is 3.5 seconds, and they don't look to be particularly working together well as they're about to go 3 wide. You see them stretched out behind our leaders. They've got to get this sorted out soon. They're already through Antonios Beach, and they're still 3 wide. No. This is not good news. One of them backs out. That looks to be Reed Miller. And finally, they get single file. Banfield going to slot in behind Bennett. They did not gain any time on the top 2.
None at all. And Bennett, boy, really ran that right front almost up against the Armco barriers. They were coming off.
Camera shot looked like the Blue Angels at an air show flying in formation. Not a pass at all up front, interesting enough. They just kind of run nose to tail.
Well, I think they know what's up, Bill. They seem to be drivers who've sussed out what a lot of others have who've driven this combo. And I think they're getting ready to release the Kias, if I'm not mistaken. They cannot line up at the end of the pit lane. They must go from their pit stall. So we see this battle continue. That's Banfield in the white, red, and black machine being chased by the blue, red, and black of Reed Miller. Cars showing up in the pit lane. Now through the Dunlop curve and into the Schumacher S for the top of the MX-5 field. We were looking at Scott and Worley before, and those two still stuck together.
And they're releasing the hounds, Joe. Here come the Kias.
Orlean gonna lead them out. The first one to really put the pedal down and approach this first chicane. Ooh, already we got one driver overshooting at Jeff Schmeier, excuse me. He loses out and is already under threat from Kevin O'Keefe.
Here's what is kind of fun about this track choice, though. As soon as the Kias get through the MX-5s, then they're on the same lap, right? Then they just have to just make their way. They have 2 hours or so to get all the way around and catch the MX-5s.
Yep,
we don't have to worry about how many laps they have to get. Yeah.
And right now, I'm looking at the distance between Worling and Collard, and it looks like they're about half the distance of the GP course to try and catch the first of the MX-5s. Now, I'm looking back up at the front of the MX-5s, and L'Herbier starting to fall off of Mueller.
Yeah, I think we were warned appropriately about Mueller and his possible pace. I think he's starting to get in the groove here just a bit, Joe.
Certainly looks like it. As I've raced against Dick in some of the VLN races before. He is incredibly good with the MX-5 at the ring. We ride on board with L'Herbier, watching through the Swedish cross down into Ehrenberg.
No. Trouble, Bennett.
Oh, no, Banfield in the wall.
Banfield. It was Banfield and Bennett right next to each other, and Banfield just couldn't hang on to it, Joe. He comes back out right in front of traffic, too. Everybody trying to hear goes Slavonic. Jimbo Pfeiffer there.
Yep, all three are going to get by cleanly, thankfully. Severe damage on the car. And once again, for the second time, too wide through the Swedish cross just does not seem to work. This time it's the inside car. The V Apex driver finds himself smashing the Armco.
Can't take the toe. That's going to result in a toe. He's going to knock the whole front clip off here. It is a hard hit.
Lucky he didn't come back onto the course. In fact, he nearly did when he tried to turn it around. Thankfully, he was given space by the drivers flashing by.
He didn't take the tow voluntarily. He put the car in the wall again after he got it going.
Travis Worling is still your leader in the Kias, and Blake Reynolds is trailing him. The champion, the current reigning champion of Blake Reynolds, still doing all he can to try and get max points out here today, keeping himself in touch with the leader in his class. It's the best you can hope for sometimes. Right in on board with Worling, looking back at Blake.
And remember how this race started with the MX-5s, all of them nose to tail? Hasn't started like that here in the Kias. They have really started to spread out pretty quick, Joe.
Oh, and they've had a problem. Gustavo Cianfrani is turned around in Ehrenberg. Oh. This is down in 34th position.
Yeah, and that was with Marcus Tracy.
Ooh, did he actually have contact? We'll find out here. We've got the replay.
Yeah, Marcus came sliding through.
You know, it almost looked like Gustavo actually kind of lost the car a little bit first. Oh, no, maybe it was the 83 that just came in hot.
He did. He was coming in real hot, and the car was just skating across the track. Here's the great view of it here, Joe.
It comes from the chopper. Oh, yeah. Oh, he was. It looked like wheels in the dirt even before the kink, which is bad news. I think anybody who's driven that portion.
Yeah, I think he became a passenger there at the end.
So how close are they getting to Ben Collard? The timing and scoring, unfortunately, not quite showing the gap between them for me. Trying to get a feel for how close they are.
10 minutes and 50 seconds from Worling to our leader, Mueller. Let's see how far before they get to lap traffic.
And that's what I'm trying to figure out is the distance.
It's about 10 and a half seconds, Joe. It's about 10 and a half seconds.
I can hear them coming up as I'm watching from Collard's car. So he's about to get swamped. Ben Collard in 16th position in the 262 comes up to Stijlstrekke. And this is really bad news for Ben Collard because now they've just finished one of the longest straights in the track and have hit one of the twistiest portions where there's nowhere to hide. Worling's going to be able to get around before they get to the carousel. Up next is going to be Reynolds.
Hang on here, Ben.
Reynolds gets a nice spot to slip by. Then he's got Matthew Thunhorst. It's probably a blessing that they spread out as much as you listed there, Sean. The top two pulled away by a big gap.
Good job by Ben here so far, letting him get by. Here comes Worling in his mirror.
Now they've caught even more of them as Murphy almost goes off course to let Worling through. When do they start getting to battling MX-5s? That's the other question. Looks like Brian Barnes and Zhen Huang in 11th and 12th are going to be the first that they have to take quickly in succession. There you see that's Barnes in his traditional bright blue colors, with Huang there in the yellow.
And even they are separated by 4 or 5 car lanes through this technical section.
So coming up towards Swallowtail now. They do have 2 more cars in front of the Powers and Worley also close together. There's our leader in the Kias. That's Travis Worling. Now hitting Swallowtail himself.
Oh no! Trouble for Ryan Worley.
Oh, the mini carousel. Did he just carry too much speed here?
Well, he does, and he just pops right up off the ground, Joe. He hit the dip.
Bob Powers had a great view of this one as he goes behind Worley as he spins.
That little dip there, Joe, and you hit it just right. He did, and boy, it didn't end well for him.
As we come back live, he does get it turned around, but not without a little bit of damage.
Crabbing, Joe.
Let's go up to 7th position overall here. Let's take a look at Paul Slavonic real quick and his teammate. This is how teammates race. They're coming at you. He's been pushing them the entire straightaway.
They know how this works. Two Alliance drivers working together. A little bit of damage on the back of Slavonic, though. Not sure if that's from the push. They're going to get Worling right behind them just now. I think Worling going to catch them actually just about the perfect place. Sneaks through. Yeah, just fine on the straightaway.
Our leader.
He's turned around in the Yokohama S.
Oh.
He got some help, I think.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was Levier's fault on this one, though. Mueller might have been loose in front of him. Well, all right. I was trying to be optimistic to the kind of the Canadian driver.
Yeah, watch from above. It looks like he just didn't anticipate his line. Mueller cuts out wide, tries to come back in.
Yeah. You know, it's two different racing lines, Joe. I think that's it.
Let's watch from Vincent's view. That might get us a better perspective of the kinetic drivers' attempt to avoid him.
You said it right there, two different driving lines, and Dick comes back down there, and Vincent's right there. It wasn't a hard hit, but it was certainly enough.
Ooh, we're starting to get a lot more messy. If we could go to Andrew Oakey, who is currently in 20th. Look at all of the Kias now going by the likes of, looks like Rob Powers and Brian Barnes close together. It is a swarm.
Oh, no.
Just to make matters worse, yeah, you just heard the same news that I did there, Sean. I think the Porsches are going to join the fray.
And look how close they will be when they come out to the action. They're not going to be that far behind.
Yeah, they're going to get to Ryan Worley first, who's been sent to the back recently. And while we're watching this group of Kias work their way onto the Nordschleife, just as they catch the likes of Pfeiffer and Slavonic. Pfeiffer's going to have to move out of the way through the north curve. We're on board with O'Keefe. And now we got to go to the Porsches.
Eric Smith leads them out, Joe.
And already putting a bit of a gap on Mark Torres, another of the kinetic drivers, just ahead of Garzotto. Our lap guide driver. Someone who was very worried when he was talking to me about whether it was a good enough lap or not for him to be third in the Porsches. I'd say he needn't worry at all.
And up front, we have the two leaders in classes going by each other. Worling just goes around Lebert. Now he's on the same lap.
And he's got clear track. Finally, for the first time since he started.
And that's when he wants to take advantage of that. Here you see Reynolds also going through.
Timing and scoring showing Worling 9 minutes and 53 seconds behind Leherbert.
It's a ways to go, but it is not insurmountable. Ooh, meanwhile, let's go to 36th position overall right now. This is Torres, and a nice little fight with Garzotto for second place in the Porsches. And as that happened, we had an incident with John Roberts, one of the Kia drivers. He's 32nd overall right now, with 486. Yeah, he actually had a tumble.
It was
wasn't-
Dustin Berenstain that really
Yeah.
got off first. Sorry, Sean.
No, I was gonna say poor Dustin. He lost it, and he gets into him. He got out on the grass and came sliding back across the track and just nailed him. Poor John Roberts there winds up in that arm cover.
You saw a glance there. It was O'Keefe to the inside of him in a Kia, and again a rear-wheel drive car that's very light and a heavy front-wheel drive car. When he tried to turn in, the Kia could not.
Look at that. I bet you that little MX-5 is feeling proud of itself, though, as it put one of those Kias in the wall. Sean saying it could.
The boosted car got a boost and turned back over. So.
Yeah, that was strange.
Oh, and we got another car just in front of O'Keefe right now. Dick Mueller. Dick Mueller was shoved into the wall. This was down in Defense Valley. He had help from Kevin Hill. You know, it almost looks like just the MX-5s and the Kias trying to go into the same corner. Can't happen.
Joe, I cautioned against that. I said you really don't want to race side by side with these guys.
Great camera angle right there. You saw it. The dog bear driver, unfortunately, found himself roughhoused right into the metal. Up at the front of the MX-5s, Brian Bennett has run down L'Herbier, which surprises me. He was pretty far back. I wonder if the traffic helped with this. Is he going to try and move up to the front? He's got to watch his mirrors because you can see how quickly the Kia zipped by.
Yeah, Schmeier just flew on by there.
And there's a number of them coming up. That was Hill. Then you've got O'Keefe.
See, we didn't really talk about, Joe. It's a different mindset for lap traffic now. In a regular race, oh my goodness.
Yeah, that was L'Herbier going four wheels into the grass at one of the fastest parts of the track and somehow keeps the lead and doesn't wreck the car.
If you're in a regular multi-class event and you're in the slower class, you're trying to get out of the way. You're just not trying to lose touch with the guys you're racing in your class. But here, all the cars are racing each other. Uh-oh.
Oh, man, Mueller's having a horrible lap. Oh, no, he's trying to pull back out. He's in a very blind portion. This is Stylstrucker. He's stuck there. Now he's able to get across, maybe. There he goes.
He kind of got bullied again, Joe. Going into the turn there. Brian McGreevy gets into him.
He does indeed. For those wondering, to Bill's point about the slower class and how they're supposed to behave, they are not allowed to try and block the cars. So they are racing them, yes,
right.
But they can't do any sort of crazy defensive moves. They need to take their racing line.
But the flip side of that is the faster classes are also in a hurry to get through. They cannot be patient because they're racing them as well.
Mueller having more trouble, guys. Scott Corbin trying to get around him. Mueller's still spinning, still trying to catch the car.
Just incredible damage on that car. He might have to take a tow. I'm not sure if it's safe for him to continue. Let's head down to 38th overall. This is Tucker Minter up towards the front of the Porsches, leading a train of these cars. Wade Hayes, Clark Archer, Lionel Callisto, Paul Darling, Liam Quinn, all trying to run him down. Indeed, is Smith getting close to the back of some of these other cars? Kyle Murphy's coming up quick. So they're going to catch the MX-5s before they catch the Kias. Smith working his way now through Brunchin. And Murphy is just ahead of him. He could catch glances of him here and there. I think by the time they hit Swallowtail, he should definitely be right on top of this little MX-5. And if you thought the speed difference between the Kias and the MX-5s was big, well, get ready. puff of smoke is from the red car that you're seeing up. Oh, this is not good. This is our leader from the Porsches coming up on the damaged car of Mueller, and thankfully it looked like Murphy lifted a little bit to avoid disaster. Oh no,
mercy.
and they're boxed in. That is Torres losing gobs of time. Oh, and that's one of our Kias. That's Sean Ferrani. Gustavo turned across the course. Still the Porsches having trouble trying to get past. Oh, and there's contact. Another car hitting Dick Mueller. He hits the Armco for the third time this lap.
Wow.
And Eric Smith is loving this. The gap is up to 6.8 seconds. Finally, they hit the Dotting Rhoa. And I'm seeing Travis Worling in the pits. Is this a scheduled stop? I know the Kia's on a bit of a weird strategy. Oh, no, it's not. No, it's not. Travis Worling hit the wall in Tiergarten maybe about 2 minutes ago. Completely missed this. Was all we had to watch with hell breaking loose elsewhere. Here it is perfectly.
Wow. Travis just making a big mistake there.
All on his lonesome. Eventually took it into the pits, took his spare car, and I'm guessing took a scheduled stop. Hopefully a scheduled stop. If it messes up his pit strategy, that's even worse. This is the onboard view. The unorthodox driver just tumbling into the wall.
And again, I think some of this attrition goes back to the nature of the Predator format, where drivers can't afford to rest. They are racing. They have to think, I've got to make up 9 minutes of time. How can you not be aggressive?
Let's go to 36 in overall. Mark Torres was in a side-by-side battle with Tucker Minter. This is for second, and then behind them, it's been side-by-side between Garzotto and Wade Hayes as they come up to more traffic. If this continues, we might see yet more problems.
Oh boy, Garzotto and Hayes almost together again, Joe.
Through the Schumacher S, this has got to be single file through here. Thankfully, they don't have any of the MX-5s, but they're coming upon more. Minter still leading this group second in the Porsches.
That's Garzotto in the white car.
He's having to force these MX-5s out wide as Scott Corbin tries to stay out of the way. Brian Barnes as well, letting them through. It's almost like you just have to hope and pray when you turn in that there's not going to be a Porsche there. Oh, and Hayes almost gets into the back of Garzotto one more time as they come onto the Nordschleife. He is eager to try and get by. It's Clark Archer as well behind him. Let's see, Kyle Murphy has come in for a pit. We don't need to go there. All of this traffic has been a boon to Minter, starting to pull away. My goodness. Oh, that is one of our MX-5s off. That's Jimbo Pfeiffer, who just decides it's better to take to the grass, take the cut course penalty. Look at this train. My goodness. They've even been getting a little bit of chat from the stewards on the radio. The race control has been telling them you need to show some patience in this format.
Yeah. If I was a driver, I'd tell you we could put that suggestion.
All right, we're finally getting some straight line where they can go around these MX-5s and things spread out a little bit. I have a feeling that these Porsches can't get to clear air soon enough. Wade Hayes still fighting. While those The timing and scoring on your screen says things like 38th position overall. When you get to the end, those numbers are going to get smaller and smaller.
And I'm just keeping my eyes on Garzotto right now. He's coming through some traffic. He had a Kia right in front of him. It was I think it was Callisto. No, it wasn't Lionel. I'm sorry. Lionel's in a Porsche. But that Kia that he was getting around was literally losing it as he was trying to pass him.
Oh, it is getting really checked up behind this. You see glimpses of it. It's Clark Archer just behind them, along with Darling, Quinn, and Richie Hearn. They're trying to get
Paulson.
around. Yeah.
Yeah, that's who it was.
It's one of the Kias. Just really stuck in a horrible place, and here to miss, hit, miss. This is a very dangerous, fast corner. Finally, they're all going to get by him. Now it's an MX-5, Samuel Scott. Oh, and that is Clark Archer. As they all have to thin out to try and avoid him, there's no way to get through in Defense Valley. You can see Archer having to do a 5-point turn just to get turned around, and
misses his turn there, Joe, period. Just missed it.
I think he's got a clear spot now. There he goes. Whew, now we can watch the replay of how this all started.
A ton of cars behind him.
I can't believe everybody missed him. It's hard enough braking for that corner. As Archer demonstrates here. He's got nobody in front of him. Just loses it. And then the nightmare begins.
What a great job by Liam Quinn. He was the closest to that when it happened and squeaks through there with no damage.
So our leaders in each of the cars, and they're not classes, mind you, this is just the cars. Brian Bennett leads our MX-5s. L'Herbier is following him closely. You can see there the Kinetic driver chasing the Alliance driver. The top of our Kias is Blake Reynolds ever since the problem for Warling. So the current champion leading the way, and that is a much bigger gap. It is 11 seconds down to Thunhorse. So Reynolds taking advantage of the opportunity while he can. The front of the Porsches, very similar. Eric Smith, nearly 7 seconds back to the nearest of the same car. Number 32. It looks like actually he's got quite a bit of clear track in front of him now. So Eric Smith has got to make hay while the sun shines.
And all you soldiers and Soup's Clipboard Army, let me give you some numbers here at the 40-minute mark. Blake Reynolds is 8 minutes and 21 seconds behind our MX-5 leader. Our Porsche driver of Eric Smith, he is 19 minutes and 40 seconds back.
What if I'm using my soup board?
Yeah, it was early. It was. I said clip soup board army today. Sorry about that. It was like.
I kind of want to make a graphic for that. We'll back to the racing as we watch Liam Quinn.
I'm gonna call RaceBot, see if they have any openings.
Quinn chasing down Darling ahead of him. That is Richie Hearn just behind. Hearn, I believe, running within the top 10 in the Porsches. And he's got Cody Wyman giving chase and right on board with the former IndyCar driver. As they work their way through the Beloff S now. Richie has always said that even though he had that IndyCar experience and he raced on the ovals, he grew up running the road courses, and that's his roots. Wonder if he ever got to race here at the ring.
I think Richie said he came and visited the ring. He saw it. Didn't race it, didn't drive on it.
That is tantalizing. You can't just show up there and not drive a lap. Oh, look how close he is, though, to Liam Quinn, the Kinetic driver, obviously going to be under threat with the slipstream picking up. The speeds of these Porsches, the Cup cars, pretty darn fast. They're already up to 170 miles an hour as they go 2 wide. They're going to hit Antonius Beach. And Hearn is fully passed. He's up to 171 miles per hour. Through the quick left-hander, 73, 74, 75, 76. And that's where he tops out. I think we've had problems in the MX-5s. Reed Miller, I believe. Unfortunately.
I think he got spooked.
Dale Green scared him.
Well, I mean, it starts with him hitting the curb, and it pops the car up back onto the track. I wonder if he had his eyes off the prize and maybe in the mirror for just a moment there.
They kept it off the wall. I don't think he hit it, did he?
I think he did get it, but talk about being scared. Dale had this car bouncing in front of him, going left and right. Nice job from Green for getting by.
Yeah, he did smack it, Joe.
Oh, that's a shame. Samuel Scott, because of that, inherits 3rd position. A number of cars in pit lane.
We don't need to go there. Lionel Callisto just spun his car. Didn't hit anything, did a little donuts, got it back out, lost 3 or 4 positions. Oh, let me change that. 5 or 6, 7 positions.
It's a little bit more.
Yeah.
I think the name of the game, and it's no surprise, seems to be survival. Get to the end. Worry about keeping the car whole. We're down to 10 to go as Bennett leads L'Herbier's 027. 22 seconds over Sam Scott. Whew. Behind them, it's a lot closer for 15th. Overall, this is Thunhorst, who's 2nd in the Kias, Andrew Oakey, and James Stacy. James Stacy's a ways back from them, so it's a 2-car battle here for 2nd.
Okay, I'm going to speak up for the fans. When we look at 10 to go, is that our software doing the math, or is this actually it? Okay. Hit it? Oh, it is lap-based. Okay.
So I guess they wanted to make sure that they didn't somehow get a weird number of laps.
And spoil the math. Okay, I got it. All right.
So a track like this, you can manage to predict the laps a little bit easier. Through Ehrenberg. Both of them slided around a lot. Oakey still giving chase. You can see as they pick up speed heading towards Metzgefeld. And then you really drop an elevation out of here where it gets darker, the trees get thicker on either side. It's currently 8:30 in the morning here at the Nürburgring. German sun continues to rise. Over to 39th overall, Paul Darling. Just ahead of Richie Hearn. Darling, one of our previous winners this season.
Yeah, there was a lot of talent in that little group there where Darling was. It was Darling, Hearn, and Quinn all together.
Absolutely. Quinn, a former, I believe he won the Indy 500, did he not, in the majors last season?
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Yeah, that's
Hearn's blinking a bit on my end, which is not good news. We've known about his connection issues.
Bought a new home somewhere in the Cactus region of Nevada, and I'm not sure how good his connection is.
Let's head up to P5 because I tell you what, Jimbo Pfeiffer has suddenly got to worry about something other than the traffic because Paul Slavonic and Scott Corbin have reeled him in.
Corbin's been a good soldier here, Joe. He's been just glued onto the tail of Pfeiffer. They've been working together a bit, actually. I think they realize their only way to really make up any ground is if they do that, but now maybe Corbin's going to think a little differently about this. He steps out. Maybe a little leapfrog there.
up their way to the Swedish cross, and they've seen what's happened to other drivers, so they go single file. From Ehrenberg, then down into the foxhole.
Saving fuel in these MX-5s is a big deal because the gasoline flows like pretty much like ketchup out of a bottle. So if you can save a little bit compared to in a Formula car or the Dallara that fills so quickly, a gallon doesn't mean anything. But here, if you can save a gallon or so, you're looking at several seconds.
Oof, Corbin brave around Pfeiffer to slip up into P5. He's going to get it just in time as they hit Audenauer Forest. Checking to see the gap. And Blake Reynolds in the Kias is 7 minutes and 19 seconds behind the overall leader right now. So mark that down on your soup board.
Stop it!
All right, I promise I won't bring it up the rest of the broadcast. Eric Smith up at the front of the Porsches, still a lap down from the overall lead.
I can give you the time, though, 18 minutes and 6 seconds.
That seems, God, it just seems so huge.
Yeah.
But then you look at how fast they pass the cars. Our leader in the MX-5s definitely seem to have made a truce of some sort between the two teams. Kinetic and Alliance traditionally have not, well, I don't want to say they don't get along. I mean, they're not at each other's throats, but they are fierce competitors. It's friendly, but it is very hard fought. I think they've decided it's better where two heads can come together than a single head trying to fight on its own. They come through the moot curve.
Yeah, they stopped doing holiday. They stopped doing holiday dinners together at least 10 years ago.
No, they're real friendly when there's 10 laps to go. I'm sure that's talk to him in another 60 minutes.
It hasn't really looked like they're making any crazy moves every time we look at them. Oh, what happened to Wade Hayes? This is
We lost
where
it
this is.
right in front of Jeffrey Garzotto. I think Jeffrey got a little piece of that going by.
What is this? Oh, was this, oh, this was at Flansgarden. Garzotto getting away lucky there, but Hayes not so much. And when he gets going, he's got to deal with the Kia of Nick Kuhn, who he eventually overtakes. Laps to go. More of the Kias having to take to the outside of Gallows Hill as they come on to the Dottinger Hoa. That's Wade Hayes finally getting to stretch the legs out of that Porsche. Now, what's fascinating to me, Bill, is I can't tell if the number of cars we've seen come in and stop are due to damage or if we've just got a wide variety of pit strategies.
Yeah, I think you can pit whenever you want right now as long as you don't take more stops than you need to. So I think a lot of it has to do with traffic.
Yeah, Joe, I've been watching some of the cars coming in and out of the pits, and most of what I've seen so far have included some damage, front end damage or side damage.
I don't think Blake Reynolds is for damage, though. That looks like a clean car. The ride and shotgun machine. I understand that the Kias have very, very short stints.
Well, that's not a good selling point, is it?
It's not made for this type of racing, really. That promotes Matthew Thunhorst to the top of the Kias, 15th overall, about 7 minutes behind the overall leader. Blake is back out. And Andrew Oki came out ahead of him. Now, if they have multiple stops, it could be that Oki just took his short stop this time. We're getting information. It is 4 to 5 laps for the Kias that they can go. So there you go. As we are in lap 5 now. That was a scheduled stop.
Can we go up front real quick to Bennett? This is really interesting. Leherbier just sitting behind.
He's not pushing him, though. Which I would have thought he'd at least give him a little tugboat moment.
Well, if I think it was about speed, I would think they would leapfrog each other, because you can gain car lanes that way. I almost think it's about fuel.
You know, that's a good point. That it might be exactly what Vincent is doing. Just sitting there, lifting a little bit, knowing that when the only pit stop comes for the MX-5s, that he's going to come out way ahead of him.
That's great strategy if you're only racing Brian Bennett, but if you're not, you're racing the Kias and the Porsches as well.
I mean, whatever gets you farther up the course, less time in the pits is still helpful.
That's okay.
More time you're in motion, yeah. So I actually say this is tremendous strategy from Leherbier if it's what he's doing. Remember, we had an issue with Travis Warling earlier on. Well, he's moved his way up to 4th in the Kias, but he's already taken a stop, and he's slightly off strategy. I believe that was it the end of lap 2 or 3 for him?
Yeah, I can't remember on that. My clipboard is too messy.
Looks like it was at the end of lap 2, I think, because I see a 10-minute lap in there on lap 3. So let's see, can he then make it? I think he should be able to make it to the end.
It was the end of lap 2, Joe. I'm confirming that on my time and score.
Well, actually, no, he can't make it to the end, because if it's 5 laps at most, 10 and 10.
Yeah, no, he can't.
Plus 2. He's going to have to make an extra stop. Oh, that is unfortunate for the number 90. And as is pointed out by one of our informants behind the scene, they unfortunately take a long time in the pits, described as using a sippy cup to put the fuel in. Let's go back to Garzotto. This is Paul Darling close behind him. They're starting to drop Richie Hearn a little bit. See if he can reel them back in. They come towards X-Mule. They're going to hit Kesselchen very soon. That'll be a good spot to try and catch the draft. Through Lauda Links towards Bergwerks. And already, even before the draft, it looks like Hearn is getting up to the back of them. We ride on board with Paul Darling, chasing Garzotto. You know how powerful it is in the MX-5s. What about these Porsche Cups? He's gaining. It is down to 0.3 of a second now. Hearn following suit. They're up to the moot curve, though. That is definitely not flat out. Just not quite close enough. Maybe Darling could take a look into Style Strecka. Up and over Klostertal. Into the braking. And nope, he is not. They're going to get a little bit of traffic in front of him. O'Keefe in the Kias. Through the carousel. Oh, and just behind them, Liam Quinn. Did he just lose a position? I think he had an awful
He had trouble,
entry into the
Joe.
carousel.
Awful indeed, yeah.
And watch the replay. This is a lesson in how not to take the carousel.
Listo right behind him there, Joe.
I'm gonna watch him on board. Hope he didn't get damaged because, I mean, there's a curb down there and it looked like he just clunked it across it. Oof.
Trying to get a good look at the car. I don't see anything, but man, you never know with the steering on these things. He could have knocked that the toe out just a little bit, maybe. He's still
Kinetic
tracking
driver
Callisto.
continues. Yeah. Let's jump back up to Garzotto now. He actually used traffic very well. He got by O'Keefe, put a bit of a gap between himself and the other. And whoa, what was that accident that we just saw?
I think it was O'Keefe.
I think he blew an engine. I think.
Oh,
he's
I
blown
think
an
you're right, Sue.
That looks like exactly what happened. Thankfully, everybody avoided him. But I think Kevin's going to have to come in for a spare car.
I forgot about that.
Not sure why he blew it. He's actually still running now.
Again, I think it's your toe series if you can get into your toe strategy. How come you?
Just shifted to the wrong gear.
You're going to see it on screen there to the left. He's in third gear, and he shifted down to first, out of third and into first, and popped it. That's the first time I've ever seen a motor pop on a Kia.
It can happen. Thankfully, he can drive it back to the pits, just at a lesser speed.
Every Camel driver in the community just said, had a moment of silence there for Kevin.
Or maybe they just said, I have no sympathy.
Maybe that too, yeah. Well, somebody was asking earlier why he was called the Why Me guy. And well,
there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a perfect example.
Hey guys, if I look at all the classes and the leaders compared to where they are to everybody else, I gotta think that Eric Smith might be the favorite here. He's really crushing the cars in. When I say class, everyone's in the same class. How can I put this? The same manufacturers, the same. He's crushing the Porsches.
And this battle is all for position. We keep going to it, and we can't get away from it. Garzotto leading an absolute train of cars.
Our buddy Richie Hearn right in the middle of all that too, Joe.
That is the Garzotto, the fourth Porsche out there racing in order.
He's ahead of Darling, who's ahead of Hearn, who's ahead of Callisto. Callisto took a little bit of a look as we ride on board with Liam Quinn. Little train can't get anything out of it. And they're dealing with the blinking Richie Hearn in front of them as well.
Callisto might be the fastest of the group. He had a spin earlier that cost him lots of positions.
Definitely hustling the car. Look at them just sliding around. So our leader in the Kias hands that back over as Thunhorst takes his stop. Believe Hebron in with him. Where is
Rob Gall?
Kevin O'Keefe. Now, did Kevin make a stop? Let me see did he come in? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, Oki is now our leader in those cars. Actually, no, I take that back. Warling is the leader.
Yeah, but that one is a faux lead, right? Because we think he has to stop again, right?
He's gonna have to stop. Yeah.
You're the one, Bill, that always mentions the aliens attack. So. So
Keith.
Oh, yeah. O'Keefe today.
In
a very
trouble.
Short stop.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what happened here.
Maybe he did not take an actual pit stop. Maybe he just took his spare car.
Came in for the spare car. Yeah.
Oh, well. Now, what is he doing going through the shortcut? You can't do this.
I don't know what he did or why he did it, Joe.
McDonald's order, I think.
They get it wrong? Is he coming back through the line?
I mean, did he?
Yeah.
He didn't possibly get confused and think he could turn there, did he?
No.
No.
And now he's taking a regular stop. You can see he's getting tires. Well, Rutgers Kev is going to have to enlighten us for sure. As we switch over.
It's a good friend of mine used to say he's got some splaining to do.
Oh, Lucy. Well, as our leaders overall come to the front stretch, Bennett still ahead of Le Herbier and still none of the 027 even attempting to go by Brian Bennett. Let's see, our highest Kia, Travis Warling. Am I seeing this right? Minute 19? Oh, it's because we had an issue with the timing because of O'Keefe coming in, so that's why that screwed up. I was like, 7 minutes down to 1 minute. This does not seem right.
Andrew Oakey, 7 minutes and 23 seconds behind our MX-5 leader, Brian Bennett. But again, Bennett still has to make a stop. Although, I guess, Sean, these Kias are going to have to come in again, right? Yeah.
Reed Miller just came in, guys, and his MX-5.
Yeah, now these guys started to come into the little cars.
And Jimbo Pfeiffer also joining him. In fact, they should be able to get to the end if any of the MX-5s are taking their scheduled stop. I remember this one, Sean, that you can go about 10 laps on those little MX-5s.
About
9 laps, we'll say then.
Let's say 9. Yeah, let's say 9 and play it safe. If I'm on the box, let's say 9 and play it safe. We don't want me coming up short on any fuel calculations, right? The guys in the truck have any comments on that? No, they don't. Okay.
Right through the Vidal chicane, Le Herbier still trailing. I can report that Worley has come in for a stop.
I wonder if we should go to Oakey and Reynolds, because, boy, Blake looks like he's starting to press the issue here, guys.
Well, it's no longer an issue.
No,
He's
it's
by.
not, is it?
So that moves Blake Reynolds up to the top. No, not to the top of the Kias. Second in the Kias.
Well, Warling just came in, didn't he? So I think that...
No.
Warling had the very
Warling's
early
got to
stop,
come
remember?
in. Yeah, he
Okay,
took the
all
early
right.
stop.
Okay, I've checked Warling out of being a factor here. So you're right. I think this is all Eric Smith's win here. He's sitting back there. I think this is going to fall his way when it's all said and done.
He's certainly got a nice little gap over Tucker Minter, who's 10 seconds behind. The V Apex driver is working his way through Swallowtail.
Now, of course, none of those Porsches have pitted yet, so...
And
I've got... Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, the really good news for Smith, you see ahead, there's just no cars. Well, that really is. There's no cars at all until Dustin Berenstein, who's just now finishing the lap. That tells you how far Eric Smith has to go, where he can just put the foot to the floor and try to get the max out of the car.
Yeah, and what a distinct advantage for Eric Smith. Not that he needed any help, But right now, I've got him just under 14 and a half minutes behind Brian Bennett. Who, of course, is the overall leader right now in the MX-5.
Picking speed up down the Dariner Hoa through Antonius Beach up to Tiergarten. And then he's got to get on the brakes. Let's go to 18th overall. This is John Roberts in the Kias, just ahead of James Stacy and Kevin Hill close behind.
Boy, Sean, is it just me? Maybe it's because it's a front-wheel drive. I have no experience. Are those cars really tail happy? Those Kias look like...
Yeah, no, they are tail happy. No,
they look like, if you can imagine, a slot car, if you know what I mean. It looks like it's going around like a slot car.
Again, it's
the brakes.
It is the brakes, and it's a front-wheel drive car, so proportionally, all the weight in this vehicle is, of course, shifted to the front.
And they've probably got the brake bias jack towards the front to help it rotate. So anything you can do to help the understeer of a front-wheel drive car. So we ride on board with Roberts, looking back at Stacy. Flansgarden working towards the Beloff S. Big drop of this crest here too. See, now I think if they're going to switch this around from time to time, they should change the Nürburgring round to being the historic German Grand Prix and put the 49 out here. Give them a challenge. Now, Clark Archer's had some issues.
Oh, that's an issue.
Well, that's the wrong pit. You don't want that one, Clark. And he's literally... How did he manage this?
I don't know. Did aliens drop him in there or something?
I think he actually sandwiched it completely stuck. He wedged it.
Well, we're about to find out how he did it.
Somebody saved this one and sent it into the non-highlights for the month for iRacing. I know they had a few of those in the last month, and I'd say this is a perfect one. I've seen drivers pull in Austin Powers, but never that perfectly. He emergency brake parked it, basically.
And do they have those cones like glued to the pavement there? Because they didn't move.
If you gave him 50 tries to do that, he couldn't do it again.
Oh man, Porsche riding shotgun Porsche. Had to take a tow, just had no choice. Meanwhile, who have we jumped to here?
It's like Elwood Blues.
Oh, Stacy and Hill.
Yeah, Stacy and Hill, as you said there, you see on the screen. Puffin Racing and Unorthodox. They're still going at it as Hill takes a little bit of a look, but then comes back to the racing line into Valvoline. So, as it looks like Stacy pulls a tiny bit of a gap over Kevin Hill, I can report that Travis Warling is now taking his second stop with 8 laps to go. He absolutely will not make it to the end. He's going to have to come in one more time.
Andrew Oakey is just filling up the mirror of Blake Reynolds. I'll tell you, I've been impressed all race with Oakey. His pace has been great, and I think Reynolds should feel a little bit nervous here. Oakey's really pressing him. Not used to seeing Blake Reynolds get a lot of pressure. He's generally the one that runs away from everybody, Joe.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'd be surprised too, because Reynolds is being swooped up into the Oakey corral. Under brake and looking very strong as well. wonder if we're going to see a pass. Oh, yes, we are. With mistakes like that, and Andrew has to get on the binders just to keep from plowing into the back of Reynolds. And that sets him back greatly. Look at how many car lengths there are now between them after hounding him for so long. And man, Sean, that was a graphic illustration of how tough these Kias can be under braking.
And, Blake started to feel the pressure. He tries to turn up the wick just a little bit, get hustling there. And the car doesn't want to get hustling with him. He's still just drifted it through there, coming over the hill.
Have we found Blake Reynolds' weakness?
The Kia?
Yeah. I'm honest, in the past, we've seen him just drive phenomenal races and be nearly flawless in every car he gets into. This is the most unsteady we've seen him in a long time.
My heart breaks for his difficulties.
Oh,
He can't do pink text verbally, Bill. I'm wondering, as we watch this battle for what will probably potentially be the lead, when the battle is going to be broken up by a pit stop in the MX-5s. Because Herbier continues on another lap, sitting behind Bennett.
Well, they've done 7, and they have 7 to go, so they have got to where they wanted to be.
And I was going to look for the hard charger, and unfortunately, because they gridded them according to pace, it's telling me 37th for Brian Bennett, so not quite working out how I would have hoped.
There's no such thing as a hard charger in a Predator race. We're just leaving it
within the class.
Biggest eater, maybe.
Yeah, there you go.
No, I do like your idea for the Lotus 49s. Let's bring 2 other open wheel cars here.
No, just the 49. Just
Yes.
send it out on the Nordschleife. See who survives a Grand Prix length race. So, Brian Barnes may have had a problem, and I'm double checking to see if maybe we've just got a error in our timing and scoring. And I'm not seeing anything as I rewind back. He didn't even pit. Sean's
Joe?
found something, though.
Well, it just still going on. You've got Quinn back here, Quinn, Wyman, and Richie Hearn all still stacked up, riding along together here, trying to get to their first pit stop. They're coming around now in Flance Garden.
Yep, through the Beloff S's towards Swallowtail. It is Quinn at the lead of this trio. All of them actually looking very smooth through this section. Nice and steady.
Nice Sunday drive for the Porsches here in
and
Germany.
just as I say that, Quinn a little bit hot off of the mini carousel. Wyman's going to try to take advantage of it. I don't know that he really wanted to do it there, though, because Liam Quinn is now going to get into the toe of that number 331. I think, maybe, hopefully, he's dropping back.
I don't know, Bill. I think Wyman got a little satisfaction out of that. What do you think, buddy?
I do too. Here comes Richie.
Richie instead has got a little bit of a better run. Both getting it from Quinn, and now on top of it from Wyman.
Easy.
Despite Wyman. They go side by side. Wyman with a little bit of a lift. He's going to let Hearn through.
A little bit of boom racing there. A lot of weaving going on.
And maybe we have a hint that pit stops are going to take place soon, because Le Herbier is now ahead of Bennett, and it was by slipstream.
Yeah, it's always, they don't mind being in second until it's time to make a pit stop. They always like to be first in the pit lane. And I think that tells it. Now, I don't think the Porsches have quite reached halfway yet. I think they need to go one more lap before they're there.
Just to complicate things, we're watching the replay here. This is Le Herbier just going to slip to the inside. They're being overtaken presently by McGreevy. He's going to get safely by in his Kia. There you see the move by the Kinetic driver that we think might have a very short fuel stop.
Well, it'll be lengthy, but in comparison to what Bennett will have, it should be short.
So we will. Plunging down one more times through the Spiegel curve. And around miss, hit, miss. Down to 7 laps to go here in this 14-lap race at the Nürburgring. If you're just joining us, this is round 5 in the majors. This is the first Predator race that we're seeing in the 2019 season. And it's had its fair share of dramas already. But your leaders in each of the classes, now Le Herbier recently taking it, with Blake Reynolds up at the front of the Kias, but only just barely ahead of Oki, who's regained his ground on him.
Yeah, he's regaining it in a great spot here, coming down the front straight, too.
Let's stick with this for a moment before we go to the Porsches. He's behind him, but I think he's a little too far back. I don't think he's going to try and pass him down into the Yokohama S. So that brings us to the Porsche leaders. That is Eric Smith. 16 seconds now between himself and Tucker Minter.
Tucker, though, doing a good job.
Absolutely.
Tucker's got 14 seconds back to Mike Torres, so those Porsches are really spread out.
I think they were from the start. So we come back to Le Herbier. They have more traffic there. Yep, they've got, looks like Brian Bennett, Gustavo Cianfrani. He's going to sneak through Style Strecca and leave them alone. Boy, the gap from second to third. Samuel Scott now 32 seconds back from these two just coming out of the carousel. You can't even see him coming out of Style Strecca towards the carousel as they breeze by. He's that far back.
Sam is a very lonely guy on track back there in third right now, Joe.
Yeah, he's got Scott Corbin 9 seconds behind him, and there's no lap traffic coming up to him. So at this point, it's head down for the number 918. Just run your laps.
Minter just had a problem. We just had a problem. Minter got together with an MX-5. It was Ryan. Was that Ryan Worley? It was.
Oh, that's going to cost him a little time.
This is the second time we've seen this into Defense Valley. Very similar with an MX-5 on the left side, except this time the MX-5 survives, and it's Minter who gets turned around.
My little MX-5s are tough, baby.
Yeah, holding its own for once. Kind of surprised by that.
Maybe they secretly updated the damage model on the MX-5, Joe, since the last time we were in it.
Could be. That could be. We've jumped back up to our overall leaders. They're coming towards the end of the lap here soon. So will we see Vincent Le Herbier pit? This is when he's finally jumped ahead of Brian Bennett, and that's usually the sign we expect to mean someone is trying to pit. Ooh, Swallowtail. Also, will Bennett try to get him back, too? Because they're coming up to the Dade Nerhoa. And if the 71 wanted to, he could try to slipstream by.
This gap that these guys have on the rest of the MX-5 field makes me worry a little bit for Eric Smith. And maybe Eric doesn't have this thing wrapped up now, because these guys are really crushing their car class as well.
Well, it makes it easy to tell who the major players are going to be.
It sure does.
Here comes Bennett. He is going to use the draft, but he's going to lift. In fact, a little bit wheel off into the grass for Leherbier there. Must have got distracted.
Yeah, just to follow up on your point, Joe, whether it's one car or another car, I think we're going to have a sprinkling of cars up in the top 5. So that's kind of what Mike wants.
That's the idea, yeah.
Yeah.
Do they stay out? Do they go in? They hit Tiergarten.
Now it's time.
Don't even break until Hohenron. Pit entry coming up here to the right. Leherbier is in, but Bennett is not.
No. This is... Now, I don't want to question Brian Bennett. I mean, he is leading the Legends division, so certainly a wise sage, but
old age
I don't
and
know about the strategy here.
Something about old age and treachery, Bill?
Okay, I think that's the quote, yeah. This one doesn't work for me, though. You need a partner.
I'm kind of in agreement. I think Bennett B by himself is going to be a bit slow compared to Leherbier. And Leherbier is probably going to jump him, considering how long he was just sitting there behind. We're going to wait until he gets out, and he's going to be joined by his teammate at Kinetic, Corbin.
Looks like Sammy Scott stayed out, though.
All right, so Leherbier going to rejoin the track, and actually where he is, I believe, because Brian Barnes also coming in. A number of the MX-5s are going to come in behind him. We're going to take a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. We'll come back with the final half of the 2.4 hours of the Nürburgring Round 5 in the majors.
Growing up as a kid in Oklahoma, where I'm from, the Chili Bowl is the biggest race that we have. The Chili Bowl has kind of been my favorite race of the year. Growing up a dirt racer in Oklahoma, that's kind of the holy grail.
Second and final pit stop for Blake Reynolds. You see, he is still hounded by Andrew Oakey, the yellow car in your background, and has been during the entire break while we were away, watching him try to hustle this car around the ring. This should be able to take him to the end. So we take a look at the Elite West driver of Andrew Oakey sitting in his stall. We switch over to our overall leader, Brian Bennett, who is still yet to pit. Vincent Leherbier, currently roughly a minute behind in third, who has pitted.
Interesting enough, the car behind him on the track is Eric Smith. Smith also yet to pit. I think Eric is about to unlap himself here, but he'll probably lose it back to, well, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think, well, they both will take, it looks like, one pit stop.
Right.
So
Herbier has already pitted, though, so I think he'll come around and lap these guys. We'll see. Seems impossible for Smith to make up an entire lap with just 6 laps to go, but
I mean, 14 laps. Now, Andrew Oakey jumped Reynolds last time. Did he? Where is Reynolds?
Yeah, he's Oakey's now what, 13, just over 13 seconds ahead.
So, have the ride-in shotgun drivers missed a tick in the pit stops, or is Andrew Oakey and the Elite West team missed something? I wonder if it has to do with tires, maybe? Did Oakey take tires? We know Reynolds did.
yeah, we have to take tires, we would think.
I'm not putting anything past these drivers. Their teams are a lot more clever than I am. Whatever the case, Oakey now has 13 seconds over Blake Reynolds.
Let's check in on Brian Bennett real quick.
Oakey did take tires, Joe. He did. 4 in fuel.
There's Bennett. Now right behind him is Smith. Both these cars still need to pit. These are the leaders of the Porsche and the leaders of the MX-5. That's Smith getting back on the lead lap.
Oh, and Bennett all the way off at Bruchin manages to keep the car from slamming into the Armco. Smith finally gets by.
Samuel Scott is in second. He didn't pit as well, and then it is back to
Herbier
Canadian driver Herbier. Yeah, thank you.
running in third, that minute back ever since the pit stops. But he was challenging Bennett. We expect Bennett to have a longer stop due to pushing the air a lot more than Vincent Leherbier. Vincent looked like he was saving fuel for many, many laps now. Riding on board with Vincent, a kinetic driver. And again, his worry is not just Brian Bennett, but also what's happening in those other classes, although he cannot know until they get to the last lap.
We'll get a better idea once he gets in this stop. Once everybody makes a stop, and Eric Smith needs to make it.
Now we're getting information
Bennett,
on
Scott, and Collier.
32nd. I believe this is overall, this is close between Quinn and Wyman. They were racing Garzotto, but Garzotto has finally left them in the dust. It's about 11 seconds from them up to the 379.
Yeah, Richie Hearn was in that mix too.
Coming
Where
up
is
on
Richie
Liam
Hearn?
Quinn here to get around.
I think Hearn already took his stop, it looks like. Hearn's been in and out. Boy, this, if ever there was a track where you can exemplify the cloud system that iRacing has implemented, I pop over to one driver, and it is bright and sunny. That we pop over to another. You can see just how dark the clouds make it. It's 9:30 in the morning, so the sun should be out. It should not be going down. It should be going up. Back in 17th in the Kias.
As we look at that battle, I'll just report that Eric Smith did come in for his stops.
This is Hebron and Roberts going at it as they come out of Adenauer Forest.
Now, last time around, Joe, Roberts was better by a full 7 seconds. So I think Roberts got some better pace. He's just got to pick a spot here to get around.
Minter came in a Porsche as well. Smith is out.
Let's check and watch Smith, our leader of the Porsches. His pit stop done and on the way.
Where does Bennett play? I'm looking for...
Bennett's in the pits right now.
He's Herbier.
Actually out.
Yeah. Here comes Le Herbier rolling full steam on the track.
And
Brian's getting it wound up.
He's just behind. I'm shocked that
look at
Bennett is able to come out not just with him, but ahead of Le Herbier. And Scott's going to be long behind them. Unfortunately, we don't have one of the major players left, Dick Mueller. I've been informed that our memory is bad about the VLN series. So I thought we had raced against him. He is not raced in the VLN series.
No?
It must be another Mueller that we're thinking about. Pretty certain we raced a Mueller.
Pretty certain we
Mueller.
did too.
Yeah.
It wasn't Dick.
Anyone, Bill? Mueller? Yeah, I know where you're going. I know where you're going. Okay, so now that the final stops have been finished for the leaders in the MX-5s and in the Porsches, our leader in the Porsches, Eric Smith, has 10 minutes and 11 seconds to make up in 5 laps.
Oh, in that battle we were watching between Hebron and Roberts finally found the opportunity to get around, Joe. Got a quick replay of it here.
Let's watch these two Kias sorted out. Where was this? Oh, it's up Kesselchen.
And John was just being patient, I think, here before. He just needed to pick a spot. He got it here and got the slipstream, got around. Did it quick, did it clean.
Job done. Moves him up to 18th overall, 6 minutes behind the overall leader, but on the lead lap.
Okay, it takes Smith about a minute and a half less time to do a lap. 5 laps to go. That's about 7.5.
That's not going to be enough, I don't think.
No, I don't think so.
You do have to remember that the traffic was atrocious for some of the Porsches when they came through certain portions. And there could be a lot that he lost through there. Wonder if that's going to make the difference on who takes the win today. Who handled the traffic best? You see Eric Smith, he's jumped to 29th overall as the race has gone on. Incredibly, though we thought that attrition would play a bigger role, we still got a number of drivers running. Only Daniel Knight, Dick Mueller, Kyle Murphy, Kevin O'Keefe, Lionel Callisto, Paul Darling, and Ryan Worley are out of this race.
Reynolds is 5 minutes and 20 seconds behind the MX-5 leaders.
And they've been running just a hair under 9 minutes a lap, have the Kias. So that is about
a minute.
just about a minute. Yeah. Minute and 10 seconds, it looks like. 10 seconds, 5 laps.
Yeah, that was going to be close. That was closer, I think.
Very close. again, I think it'll come down to traffic when Blake Reynolds starts to hit the back of the MX-5s. How quickly can he get through them? Because if he can run the minute and 10 faster consistently, yes, he could catch them, but he's got to keep that pace up amidst a lot of cars being in his way. And while we've come back to Garzotto, who just can't seem to get away from anybody. He's just behind Wade Hayes. You see in the kinetic machine, the green Porsche. Behind him, Tucker Minter. And through miss, hit, miss. And towards Defense Valley, getting awful close to the back of Garzotto. Shotgun driver looking a little bit antsy as he weaves back and forth, trying to find a way by, but can't get the power down as soon as Jeffrey. The 379 holds on to it for now. I'm not sure how much longer he'll be able to.
And I got to give an apology out to the friends and family of Andrew Oakey when I was calculating the distance between the two. I just assumed Blake Reynolds was out in front, but no. Sorry, Andrew.
So we're trying to figure out how many stops the Kias are doing here, because I thought the Kias should be done with that last one they did. But I guess it was at 6 laps, and they're saying 4 to 5, so maybe one last splash and dash?
Yeah, that's going to be interesting because Oakey is only 3 minutes and 44 seconds back of Bennett. That's well doable, easily doable in 5 laps. But I think maybe the Kias have to stop one more time. He may actually pass him, then have to come in and pit and lose it back.
It's true. Don't forget Travis Warling. I know we said that he needed an extra stop, but if the others are making a stop, then he's actually on the same amount of stops.
Mm-hmm.
So Warling might actually still be in this. If that's the case.
Well, if that's the case, he is in this. Yeah. Yeah,
They've also got Thunhorst in front of both of them.
Now,
Has Thunhorst made his last stop yet?
No. In fact, he's about to hit 5 laps on this stint.
So he should be good to go this time. And we are getting information now that Reynolds does have to make another stop. Well, that changes everything. All right, so Bennett is currently, where is he working through right now?
He's got company.
Yeah, he's he's letting Mark Schindel and the Porsches going through. I think he is, looks like he's coming up towards, not Ashbrook, is that? I believe that is, yeah, that would be Ashbrook, and coming now through Bruchen.
Bruchen, yes. And he's just, 2.5 seconds ahead of Thunhorst? Just under that, yeah. Not seconds, minutes. I'm sorry, I said seconds.
Yeah, I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah, it's like he should be right there. No, yeah, 2.5 minutes.
So he's coming to 4 laps to go soon now, actually, because he's towards the very end of the lap. Tell you what, he and Herbier have dominated this MX-5 field. Sam Scott now 41 seconds back. Sam's got to worry a little bit because he does have Scott Corbin fighting for that 3rd place. Corbin only a 1.5 seconds back.
So let me get this straight. Just I'm going to help out the fans here. Correct me if I'm wrong. We're thinking that Matthew Thunhorst might be able to one stop this from here is because he's gone longer. If he pits soon,
Yeah, if he pits this time,
right?
I think he can get to the end.
And we know that Warling and Oakey and Reynolds all need to make another stop, so he might be able to just do it in fewer stops.
Which, I mean, kudos to Thunhorst if he's able to do that.
He's 44 seconds up on Warling, 56 seconds up on Oakey, and Reynolds is a minute back.
L'Herbier is now getting within the draft of Bennett. So this battle for the lead in the MX-5s will certainly get a little bit closer soon enough. Speaking of Reynolds and all the strategy with the Kias, I believe we have the crew chief for the Ride-in Shotgun Motorsports getting ready to talk to us. We're pulling Adam Young on in and off of his stand. Adam, we have been watching carefully on how the strategy is playing out with the Kias, and we've been a bit surprised. But what about you? Did you have any idea of how much variability there was for the Kias in terms of the stops?
Well, I know for me earlier when I ran Euro that I was coming in at 4 laps and, I had like another half to 3/4 of a lap of fuel left. Now, these guys probably a lot better at saving fuel. I was also running a little bit more wing than what a lot of these guys are just because, needed it for stability. But Blake's kind of running a little bit more trimmed out, though. So he's probably getting a little bit better fuel mileage. I'm thinking Andrew's getting a lot better fuel mileage. But also thinking that maybe because they have to pit again, that maybe Andrew maybe short pitted. So I don't think Blake's out of this thing quite yet. And we're not thinking so at RSM either. But what a fantastic battle between those guys here. The last, what's been 4 or 5 laps? I mean, it's been great to watch.
It's been great to watch from our perspective, too. Of course, and battle for the lead. Sorry to interrupt you, Adam. Looks like Vincent L'Herbier giving a go at Brian Bennett through Dunlop. They're going to be side by side, and they come up to the Schumacher S. They've got to get this sorted out soon. Bennett stays to the inside of the first part, and he's going to take it back, but can he hold on to it? Because here comes L'Herbier once again. He looks to the inside, down into Bilstein, but ducks back to the racing line. So back to Adam. Obviously, this is going to be a big points haul if Reynolds can get up to the leaders in the MX-5s, and by our math, it's looking close. But what about your math? How is it looking on your end?
I think we're looking really close. With these Predator races, and really, it just on the administration side, I mean, I'd like to see everybody as far as the leaders all within a minute of each other. I mean, a track like the Nürburgring, I think that'd be great. I think we're on track with that with the Kias and the MX-5s. I haven't really had a chance to see how the Porsches are going to end up, though, so that's going to be interesting, and it could very well be the X factor in this race. I mean, what's going to happen with the Porsches? I think we've been got a pretty good idea right now about the Kias and Mazdas, though. And
Thunhorst is pitting. There's another one of our Alliance drivers currently leading in the Kias, taking what we think is his final stop. Meanwhile, we go back to the battle for the lead. Oh, and who is that going off? That is Thompson in the Porsche, fortunately finding the Armco. Well, Adam, thank you for coming and talking to us. We may pick your brain a little bit later. But wish you the best for your team. Hopefully we'll get to talk to at least a ride-in shotgun driver or two at the end.
Absolutely. Anytime, guys. I'll be around.
Crew Chief ride-in shotgun. Go ahead.
Warling came in and made his final stop as well. At least we assume his final stop right behind Thunhorst.
We have a replay spooled up as well for our leader in the Porsches. Eric Smith had a really scary moment. Actually lost control of the car briefly. This was with Houng, I believe.
Yeah, he was behind him forever, so very long.
Yeah, it happens right here. You'll see him actually slide the car out of High Oaks. Just...
Boy, that was close.
Heart in your throat stuff.
Eric here.
And that was about 20 seconds into the incident. This was going on for corner after corner.
Yeah, you could see the 409 unfortunately went off track and came back on when the Porsche did not expect it.
Okay, guys, we got moving in the pits here, or moving out of the pits. Thunhorst rolling. Reynolds still sitting. He's rolling now.
But Andrew Oakey stayed out. I don't know if we covered that. So
No,
Oakey is far ahead of them, but
Reynolds came
we're
in.
thinking maybe he's short-fueled? Yeah. Okay, so this is for sure the last scheduled stop for Blake Reynolds.
But he's third. Really fourth. I mean, if you behind Thunhurst, Worling, and Oakey.
You're right. Wow. Okay, so the plot thickens.
Although it looks like he got out maybe for Worling. I guess Worling had a really long stop because his tank was so empty.
4 laps to go. The gap is now 3 minutes and 50 some odd seconds for Reynolds. Our leader, though, currently in the Kias is 2.5 minutes back from Bennett. But we think that Oakey might still have a stop to go.
He's got to have one more to go. But it'll be quick.
And that's the key. Just a splash and dash. Corbin has been caught by Scott for third overall as well. Or excuse me, no, Scott was caught by Corbin, and Corbin has since got by, I believe.
Yeah, no, but it's still a good tight battle. Scott not giving up on it, Joe. I've kind of been watching these two. It took Corbin a little while to get the pass done on Scott, and I think Scott right now has got to be careful not to overdrive it. He's still got him at arm's length, but now he's starting to lose a little bit of ground. I think a couple turns ago he did exactly that, overdrove it just a bit. Now he starts to lose it here a bit.
As we go to 14th overall, Stacy and Thunhorst. There's the two Kias fighting it out. And you and I both know, let's stay on this battle, Sean. Oh, it was a little mistake from Stacy. Could open up the door. Thunhorst certainly thinks so. He sneaks on through High Oaks and manages to move himself now third in the Kias.
A lot of action in High Oaks here in just like the last 5 minutes, Joe.
But Sean, you and I both know that if Scott can stay within about those 2 seconds of Corbin, I think he's good to ride the coattails.
Yeah, no, he's absolutely good to ride the coattails there. He just got to, you got to guard against overdriving it and panicking. There's no reason to panic. You got plenty of time left here.
We're starting to regain. Speaking of riding the coattails, you can see Stacy getting up on that draft. Thunhorst, though, very aggressive through the Swedish cross. Doesn't lose the car, but certainly looked a little shaky for a moment.
I can hear those tires just wailing.
Oh, yeah.
The Kia.
There's been multiple times during this commentary where I've heard what I thought was a car spinning or wrecking, and it's nope, that's the Kia's just taking a corner.
Yes.
36 drivers on the lead lap. One of the weird features of this format is you start with more cars a lap down. At the end, there you end up with a lot more on the lead lap as they all get together.
Up at the front, the Herbier and Bennett still right with one another. Coming through Brushin now.
3 minutes and 23 seconds up on Thunhorst.
And Scott just got around Corbin.
Ooh. So was this another draft pass? No. This was a mistake by Corbin out of the carousel. Barely is going to keep it out. We'll have to back up just a little more than what we saw there. Let's watch from Corbin's perspective. Into the carousel. Trying to really push things. And pushed it too hard. Great save, though. So easy to send it into the barriers.
Yeah, and hasn't let him phase him too much because he's all back over the bumper of Sam Scott.
I don't think this battle for third is over by any stretch of the imagination. What about that battle for first, though? Because they're coming up to the Dottie Nerhoa, and Le Herbier is right underneath Brian Bennett. Doesn't have to happen here, but does he want to try and attempt to get by? Vincent riding behind him as we're on board now. Closes up to the rear bumper of the 71, pulls out now. This looks like he wants to be ahead. We see a pass back. Bennett gets back into the slipstream. Now he's going to get the tow. We go by the tourist entry. You can see how powerful the slipstream is in these MX-5s, but unlike Le Herbier, Bennett seems content to just wait behind. Down into the braking of Hohenron and onto the front stretch one more time. 3 laps to go now. Your top Kia, Andrew Oakey, who we think might have to pit, is a minute 59 behind.
Yeah, I'm almost certain he has to. I'm still not. I think Thunhurst is good to go. He's going to be able to 2-stop this while everyone else is 3-stopping it.
You know, I took a glance back. We don't need to get a replay, but I wanted to see how Eric Smith was doing. He is hustling. That car is pushing the limits of the circuit and actually had 2 wheels off coming through Callan-Hard.
Looking at Smith, the leader of the Porsches. Oakey in the Kias is a minute up on Thunhurst. Go, Sean.
I'm sorry, I've been watching this. It finally developed. Reed Miller takes advantage of Jimbo Pfeiffer and Antonio's Beach there and gets by, shoots his way up to 5th. Boy, Miller had been playing the long game on that too. He was following patiently for, better part of almost the last 2 laps. But these two still going to need to make a pit stop.
So you see the pass on the replay. And you said Miller was riding behind him for a long time. We kept talking about the fuel strategy stuff. Yeah, it should be next time by that I think Miller has to come in. In fact, I think all of our... Well, no, we saw Le Herbier and Bennett pit already, didn't we? Yes, we did.
Yeah,
we did. Right. Remember, they pitted a lap from each other.
Oh, so yes, everybody is pitted by now, I believe. So sorry
these are the 2 holdouts. These guys.
Andrew Oakey is in, so let's go ahead. He had about a minute on Thunhorse. Not sure if Matthew's going to be able to get there or not. Oakey may end up coming out.
Thunhorse on the dot in her
Does
hole.
Kevin Hill need one more as well? Because Kevin Hill is in the mix too, don't forget.
Yeah, Kevin needs another stop too, Joe. Oakey's still sitting.
Still stationary, yeah. Thunhorse through Antonius Beach. You see the 2 of them. That is Hill ahead of Thunhorst. We ride on board with the Alliance driver of Matthew Thunhorst now. Still waiting on Oakey.
Still sitting.
He's got to go soon. If he doesn't get going now, I think Thunhorst has got this.
Yeah, no, he's still not moving. They got
Here
him.
comes Reynolds. Reynolds is going to get him.
Is by... Reynolds is by now. Oh, and it's a very long stop. You know, for all the clever strategy that it seemed Oakey had under his belt, I think he's paying for it now, Bill.
Yeah. So Thunhorse with about 5 seconds on Reynolds. I'm also showing James Stacy in the mix. Now, did he sneak up on us? I think he might have.
He's been kind of there and thereabouts. He just hasn't been as dramatic, I think, as the others around him.
Yeah, he's going to need to... He's been out there for
he's going to need to
He's
stop.
going to need to stop again.
Ah. You see Stacy heading out around the Dunlop curve and then through the Schumacher S's. So where does that put us on the highest Kia of Thunhorse? 2.5 minutes now up to Le Herbier.
And then Eric
about
Smith still sitting 5 minutes. 5 minutes. All alone on a dot in their hoe, too.
Now, when did we say it was 10 minutes that he had to make up? What lap was that?
I think... Yeah, I'm not sure he's going to get... He has 2 minutes behind Thunhorst.
Just I'm thinking, those 5 minutes is half of it. So if it was 3 laps ago, then he's got enough to make it up there. Just barely. This could come down to drivers screaming down the dot in her Hoa, trying to catch the slower car. That will be an exciting moment if we get that. We'll wait and see.
Well, when they came across the line this time, Thunhurst was 2:43 behind. Now, he's closer now but I'm just talking at the line. So he has 3 full laps to make up 2 minutes and 43 seconds.
And he's running those 9-minute laps.
He's running 9 minutes laps compared to Le Herbier's. We'll keep it simple, 10 minutes laps. I think he's going to be... That's
about
my
30
goodness.
seconds shy.
Well, he had 3 laps to make up 2 minutes and 43 seconds, and he's about a minute faster. I think he gets there.
Oh, you're right, yeah.
All right, James Stacy got Blake Reynolds in his mirror. And Stacy, we pretty sure are going to have to make another stop. Here comes Reynolds, though. Just a little over a lap out of his last stop. Looking to make this move, find a safe spot here to get around James Stacy.
Yeah, but at the same time, you have to imagine Reynolds doesn't want to wait around too long. Of course, he doesn't necessarily know if this driver is on an alternate strategy.
Oh.
God, yeah, the sound of those tires. He's certainly having a difficult time right now trying to get past James Stacy. The Nordschleife is not the most prone to overtakes.
Okay, I think Thunhorst is in the best situation right now. I'm doing math in my head. This is always scary. I think he's the best shot. I think Smith has a real shot to get to Le Herbier.
Look how close that he's right in behind Stacy as we're on board with Blake Reynolds. He's poking and prodding, but he can't do anything. This is slowing him up dramatically, and this is horrible news for Blake Reynolds.
And he's
the way he drifts that car.
Ooh, he got the grass right there. More than a drift.
Wonder if this is messing with his concentration. The car ahead, trying to find a way past and also be fast out on track. Still stuck behind. Maybe waiting for the run up through Kesselchen. It's a long, flat-out section. Credit to Stacy, not buckling under the pressure and also not letting him by. There he goes, down into Bergwerks. Can he get it woed up in time? I think he does.
Wow.
And he's going to move himself up to 11th overall. Let's watch the replay. I'm going to keep an eye on this live as well because poor Blake might get repassed by Stacy by the draft. Is that the road course equivalent of a slide job?
Yeah.
Look like
yeah.
it.
Stacy's close behind, but looks like the draft not as powerful as he would like. Just can't get within striking distance of Reynolds. Looks like we've swapped around between Bennett and L'Herbier one more time.
Whatever they do, it better not slow them down. Thunhurst now under the 2-minute interval.
Similarly, they did this coming up through Kesselchen. I should mention, even though it hasn't been super dramatic, the track temperature has been slowly going up as the sun has been coming up. It's 10 a.m. right now, and yeah, Sean, 76 degrees now.
Yeah, and we started at 65.
Yeah.
So we're up. Yeah, we're literally up 10 degrees since the start of this race. And hey, listen, that made a huge difference. Obviously, especially places like the carousel where grip is so important, and they're throwing. They've been laying some rubber down there. We're still watching this battle for the lead. L'Herbier going to step out. He's going to stay in line, and he's going to lift. Exactly, Joe.
Cannot figure out exactly what's on the minds of these two. Maybe it is just slipstream passes to avoid slowing themselves up, like you mentioned.
I think it should be an 11-letter word that starts with T, ends in T, with a Hunhurst in the middle. He's coming.
Yeah, minute 52 now between himself and the MX-5 leaders. And down to 2 laps to go, the penultimate lap here. Perhaps a truce of sorts. It allows them to race cleanly and as quickly as they can until the final few corners, and then I imagine the gloves are off.
Smith is only a minute 52 behind Thunhurst.
This is becoming something of tandem racing in these MX-5s because Corbin and Scott are doing the same, and then Miller and Pfeiffer also.
Gotta have a dancing partner.
Is Thunhurst actually getting in amongst the MX-5s at this point? Let's see, where's Ben Collard? Yeah, Collard's just up ahead of him. So there's one down. Up next
up
for Thunhurst is Slavonic.
Mm-hmm. Slavonic is 8th. That, you know what, Joe?
See him already.
Yeah, what I didn't take into account in doing the math is that Thunhurst has to go through cars before he gets to Bennett and L'Herbier, so that slows him down.
I remember I mentioned that in the Porsches, that Eric Smith has got to really come through a lot of cars.
Well, he gets Slavonic without a problem.
That's 8th overall for Matthew Thunhurst. Now a minute 35 behind Bennett.
This is the popsicle machine of Barnes coming up next. Stacy had to come in for that stop.
Riding on board with Matthew. Easily passed. A little bit longer till the next one. Jimbo Pfeiffer's 18 seconds ahead of Matthew.
You got to think Bennett and L'Herbier back there saying, slow him down, boys. Put up a fight.
So back to the leaders. Bennett, your current leader, ahead of L'Herbier. That could yet change. And I think we've got some late pit stops, expected ones. James Stacy finally comes in, and Schmeier.
Yep, Schmeier rolled in right behind him, Joe. Stacy just about ready to roll here. He's out.
This is where these drivers, we saw Thunhurst and Smith, they'll start picking up positions now. Smith looking at Rob Powers next.
Reynolds just picked up another one. He got around Paul Slavonic.
Reynolds is giving chase, but from what we've seen, the way that car is driving, I'm not really certain he can run down Thunhorst because he's got about 9 seconds to make up.
Right, even if Thunhorst doesn't get the overall win, to know that you beat Blake Reynolds, that's a nice feather in your cap.
It's a psychological boost.
Yeah.
So he's just entered onto the Nordschleife. That gap continues to come down and come down. A little bit surprised at Eric Smith. The pace that he's showing, the way that he has put one over on the rest of the field. Well, granted, I say that. Nope, that's a Mazda behind him, excuse me. Where is the next Porsche? Wow. Next Porsche is Mark Torres behind Eric Smith, and Torres is a number of cars back. In fact, he's over a minute behind Smith.
Yeah. I'm seeing that now. Yeah.
Tucker Minter took a really long pit stop. He was racing in second for most of this race. He's well down the order now.
All right, we're going to get another car soon for Matthew Thunhorst. It's going to be Jimbo Pfeiffer, moving him up to 6th overall.
Wait, he's got it all right there in front. He's got Pfeiffer and Miller right in front of him.
That's right. Those two battling that we were watching.
It's funny, the top 6 in the Mazdas, it's 3 2-car battles, Joe.
So if you're in these Mazdas, do you try and get cute and you pull side by side when one of the faster cars comes up? I think the stewards would not look kindly on that, unfortunately.
Mike will you'll say velvet hammer. He will come down on you gently but firmly.
So that puts him up to P5 now. Thunhorst, a minute 14 back. He only has to be within a minute when they come to the line this time by. And I think he's going to be well within that.
Man, and this race, something about green hell, it just flies by. I'm like, I can't believe we're about to hit the last lap here.
14 of them. As we come back to L'Herbier, working their way up through Kesselchen. All right, is he going to swap positions one more time? Nope. Looks like the 027 just going to sit behind Bennett.
You're going back to about time. I guess when you've done a few 24-hour races here, 2.5 hours really just doesn't seem like a whole lot.
Exactly. Up through Klostertal into Stylstrecke. And then they hit the binders. Boy, it's going to be a wake-up call for Thunhorst once he gets to Corbin and Scott, because there's a 45-second gap. It's going to be a little bit of lonely running. Of course, that's probably what Thunhorst wants here at the end, is a track completely to himself to hustle that car all the way to the end.
Joe, I was just going to say, Eric Smith has got a Kia in his windshield. Finally, Kevin Hill.
Having a hard time getting to him, though. That Kia's putting in a good run.
And boy, then it's
in a straight
long way
line.
up to James Stacy, who's up there in 14th in his Kia. It's another 12 seconds up to him.
Eric Smith now approaching Kevin Hill, just about a second ahead.
You know, there just aren't enough.
Yeah.
There aren't enough long, flat-out runs. As funny as that may sound, you're at the same speed in the slow bits and the twisty turns. You're basically at the same speed as your opponent. You both have to deal with that. So I think that's the problem.
Got him.
The uphill battle Eric Smith's got here, and I think it's just going to be impossible for him to get as far as he needs to go to win this race.
Smith is going to have to work a lot harder to even get many more positions. The buffet is laid out before Thunhorst. Smith, on the other hand, is outside in the parking lot looking at the window at all the food. It's a long way away.
To bring up food. We've got to this whole broadcast. I didn't even talk about the breakfast we had here at the Nürburgring. A beautiful buffet they serve. A Schnitzengruben.
Schnitzel.
Meanwhile, just want to point out that Eric Smith is under 2.5 minutes. Now, it's 1.5 minutes that he is faster than the slowest class that's currently leading. Yeah, thankfully we had Gunther feeding us out here.
They took good care of us, man.
Despite the business deal falling out of favor, Gunther, of course, wanted to treat us well.
All right, let's go to Thunhurst. He's coming up on a few morsels right now. He's going to get Sam Scott in a second, and then
you'd
Scott
think.
Corp.
But he came up to Swallowtail here, and he caught him at sort of the wrong moment because he can't quite get by at this point, and he's not going to try and get by before the mini carousel, maybe before Gallows Hill. Is he going to wait till the long straight? Nope, he's going to do it now.
Send it.
Just enough time.
Oh, boy, watch out. Oh, hang on.
Corbin barely getting back on track, and that actually caught up Samuel Scott, who had to get on the binders. Both of them now running down the main straight to see the white flag.
45 seconds up to the two guys up front.
That's as the leaders are crossing the line, though. We need to see what the gap is when Thunhorst crosses the line.
Yeah, the live gap about 45. He's closing in now. He's even less than that.
So, do the gloves come off between these two? Do they continue to work together? Herbier stays behind as they come out of the Yokohama S. Bennett has the edge, but that's going to change once they get to a long straight.
Kevin Smith just got James Stacy.
Eric Smith just got by James Stacy.
A little known fact that the director is very into motorsports.
I've done so well. I made it to the white flag lap before I had one of those. So close.
Tell you what, a number of our Kias are starting to work their way through the Mazdas. Worling and Oki are close together. And they just got by Miller and Pfeiffer. Next on their list is going to be Sam Scott.
Eric Smith closing on Ben Collard. That's down to about 3 seconds and closing quickly. Here he comes.
Yeah, this is the first of the Miatas, I believe.
Yeah, now he's going to get a bunch of these. He's going to get Barnes is close and Slavonic, the ones that we saw Thunhurst go through.
Well, and thankfully he's getting them here on the GP course, which is probably what he wants, where it's nice and wide.
And this will give him a shot here to maybe creep up into the. I don't know. He's got two spots.
It's 15 seconds shy, I think, because I'm seeing 1:45 between himself and the leader. For all the doubts, though, of the calculations of the stewards, this is going to be pretty tight. If it's 15 seconds between each class at the end, I mean, after 2.5 hours, that's phenomenal.
20 seconds now back to Thunhurst. Go ahead, Sean.
Does that one small adjustment they made make that big a difference? I mean, I've always said I'm a huge fan of the Predator format, and sometimes you do need to tweak it to kind of figure it out. But I talked about the crazy finishes we had in the European split and the international split today. So nothing was certain about who was going to win this race. And guess what? With a little bit less than a lap left to go, I don't think anything is still certain, Joe.
I remember I was joking about 15-second change of adjustment being made that didn't mean anything, but it's going to be all the difference right now.
We're riding on board with Herbier. He's poking his nose back and forth on Bennett. This is for the overall lead. Let's stay with this for a while, because it's starting to become more tense. They've been civil up to this point, but both know that from here on out, it just matters who gets to the line first.
I'm beginning to wonder.
Smith.
What happened to Aaron
no.
Smith?
He lost. He spun around. I don't think he hit anything. It's just going to cost him a lot of time.
He made a huge mistake, and exactly that super cost him time.
Slipped on the saliva. He was looking at the food that was laid out before him.
We've seen those
Oh
precious
no!
seconds.
Oh no! Brian
difference.
Bennett with a mistake.
Bennett with a mistake now.
Off course at Audenauer Force. This hands it over to Vincent L'Herbier on a silver platter potentially. How much is this going to hurt? Thankfully, he kept it out of the barriers.
Dunhorse 9.5 seconds back.
And you know what? I think he's going to get away with this because he's staying within the draft of L'Herbier. So come back live. Thunhorse less than 7 seconds behind.
Man, that slowed them both down. They've got a half a lap to go.
There's no way.
Now
I
they're
think
sitting
Thunhorse
ducks
has
now.
got it.
I think
The only-
Reynolds is going to get him too, I think.
The only thing that could stop this is if we see a mistake from Thunhorst, which isn't impossible. He's probably able to see them in certain spots now. Coming out of Defense Valley. It's been a long run for Matthew Thunhorst. You couldn't have
No, he can
known
see him now.
exactly how close he was going to be, but now he knows, and now he can absolutely see them.
Can we go to fifth real quick? Just touch in on this one. This is a battle for fifth between two similar cars, Warling and Oki.
Looks like we're gonna stay on Thunhorse because this is for the overall lead. This has been building for 2.5 hours. And he's gonna get it at possibly one of the easiest spots he could ask for. Thunhorst approaches them out of Bergwerks where it's flat out. And he's got a lot of straightaway. And look at that. Couldn't have worked out more perfectly for the 98.
Yeah, it was called to go somewhere else. I was surprised how fast he got there.
I guess
Wow.
the big question now would be, can Blake Reynolds get to these two? I don't think he's going to be able to catch Thunhorst, but he can certainly catch these two with a good, solid run here. Stay in it, Blake.
He's only 6 back. He's coming.
Yeah, I think he might even be up to them by the end of this straightaway with the speed that the Kia's got. Where is Smith in all of this? He lost maybe about 6 or 7 seconds, but I would think, yeah, he's up to 9th at this point.
Up to 9th, about 16.5 seconds back from Sam Scott.
And a minute behind the leader.
Here comes Reynolds.
Reynolds catches them in the carousel. That is Josh Kanata just staying out of the way of them. Trying to finish this race. He had troubles earlier on, and Reynolds now up to P2. So let's see, who's the next Kia? Travis Warling, 27 seconds behind.
Yeah, I don't think
he's
so.
gonna catch those two.
He's got this problem with Oki. I think he's a little bit more worried about what's behind him than what's in front of him here at this point. He does not want to give up this position. Andrew's been strong all night.
And Eric Smith is now catching Corbin and Scott. Our lead Porsche going from 9th to soon 7th.
That'll be the end of the line for him.
Oh, but he misses the carousel completely.
That's all right.
I don't know if that'll be the end of the line. He could still get up to Oki.
Oh, those Kias are hard to catch.
Unfortunately, it looks like Smith once again getting the worst of things, having to wait patiently through some of the twisty bits. Now out of Hoa Acht and into Wipperman, Smith can get by up to P7. This is our overall leader, Matthew Thunhorst. Already is stretched ahead of Blake Reynolds by 9 seconds. And ahead of Vincent L'Herbier and Brian Bennett by nearly 15 before they even get to the line. Mini carousel, then up to Gallows Hill. From here, he can just about smile from ear to ear because he's now hit the Dottinger Hoa. All he's got to do is slow it up for the last couple chicanes, and this is his victory to have. Need to check my stats. Is this a first for Thunhorst to win?
And as we call that win, a mistake from Travis Warling. Andrew Oakley gets him.
We'll come back to that a little bit later. It's been 2.5 hours, 14 laps around the Nürburgring. Matthew Thunhorst out of Antonius Beach, up into Tiergarten. Doesn't even need to push the corner. Slowed up for Hohenron. One last time on the throttle. It's going to be a Kia that wins. It's going to be Matthew Thunhorst with Alliance taking another victory here at the ring. Reynolds follows him home.
Looks like L'Herbier is going to hold off Bennett. But we got a real battle going on for behind them.
We do, but I think Warling got it figured out on the Dottinger Hoe.
Got it back.
Oh, but Andrew Oakey is all out of sorts. He's trying to get the car woed up. He's looking for something. He almost runs into the back of Warling. Can he outgun him to the line? He's trying his hardest, but it's just not enough as they come to the timing line. Meanwhile, is it Eric Smith behind them coming up?
Yes, it is.
The first of the Porsches.
Wow.
I don't know. Would it have been enough if he hadn't have made that mistake?
I don't know.
Hard to
Maybe.
tell.
Maybe a
It'd
couple
have been
spots,
a lot closer, but I don't know.
What about Corbin and Smith? That battle's still very close back there in the MX-5s.
Scott all over his tail. I don't know here. Corbin.
No, I don't think he's
Clean
got
run
him. So that's going to be Corbin ahead of Smith. Oh, no, and here comes James Stacy. Going to get both of them.
Wow, look at that Stacy. Right there at the end.
Got to fight for every inch. That gives Stacy 8th. Miller and Pfeiffer have settled it out. Looks like Miller's going to come out ahead, but unfortunately, I think Schmeier is going to get him.
Looking at Slavonic or Minter and Roberts.
Yeah, Minter
No, I don't think that's.
Minter just picking up 2 spots, coming up the Dottinger Hoe, getting himself up to P16. But that's going to be it. Oh, it gets a little squirrely there coming off the exit.
Well, that was sure.
Oh,
fun.
and Brian Barnes is going to run out of fuel. Barnes is coasting to the line. In fact, he's going to lose out to Ben Collard.
Wade Hayes still quite a ways back. Is he got enough to roll in?
He's got it.
That's Hayes. The Hayes coming along. Hayes is going to pass him. Here comes Lee and Quinn.
No, the finish line is earlier on the straight, so it's
yes, he did.
Did you do the fuel for Brian Barnes there?
Yeah.
Sean?
Touche.
Sorry, I couldn't resist. All right, I think that is just about everybody across the line. Schindel and Gall need to get across, as well as Clement. So let's take a break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews. If you stick around on screen, you can see all the upcoming races here on GSRC. Welcome back to the ring. We just had our first Predator race of the season here in 2019 for the majors, and what a track to hold it at. But in the end, it was Matthew Thunhorst who managed to come out on top. He won by about 10 seconds over none other than Blake Reynolds. We found someone faster than Blake other than Christian Challoner. And Vincent Leherbier managed to bring his MX-5 into the top 3 to take a podium. Brian Bennett just behind him in 4th, with Travis Warling taking 5th in his Kia. Then you've got Andrew Oki in also another Kia in 6th place. Eric Smith, the first of the Porsches, coming home in 7th. James Stacy in 8th, also driving a Kia, and Scott Corbin in an MX-5 in 9th. Samuel Scott, another MX-5, rounds out your top 10. Bill?
2 Kias for Kevin Hill and Jeff Smyer. Then you get to the Porsche of Mark Torres. Reed Miller in his Mazda is next, another Porsche for Jeffrey Gazzato. Then you get down to Tucker Minter in his Porsche as well, a Kia for John Roberts. Paul Slavonic in a Mazda, as is Ben Colliard and Brian Barnes. Sean?
All right, Soup. Then we go back to 21st. Going to be Wade Hayes. Liam Quinn going to find himself right behind him there in 22nd. Nick Kuhn, 23rd. 24th going to go to Pete Hebron. Mark Schindel going to finish 25th in the number 416. Rob Gall will finish 26th today. Trevor Clement is going to finish 27th. 28th going to go to Steve Paulson in the number 58. 29th in the 314. Michael Thompson. Brian McGreevy, 5.5 minutes back. He'll finish in 30th.
Bit of a surprisingly low finish for Clark Archer in 31st, with Dale Green behind him in 32nd. Then it's Jimbo Pfeiffer in 33rd. Rob Powers takes P34, followed by Dustin Berenston in 35th. Richie Hearn, snake bit yet again, but at least he finishes on the lead lap in 36. Then you've got Marcus Tracy finishing 37th and Cody Wyman 38th, the first 2 laps down. Gustavo Cianfrani 39th, and Joshua Kanata finishes 40th. Bill?
It's all Mazdas and Porsches from here. Xing Hong in 41st, Ray Partridge, Paul Geringer, Ross Banfield, Ryan Worley. Then we have the lone Kia stuck down here, Kevin O'Keefe, who blew an engine. Paul Oh My Darling, Little Train, Lionel Caliso. Look at the big names down here. Early exit for what was considered one of the favorites, Dick Mueller. He'll have to settle for 49th position. 50th is Kyle Murphy, and Daniel Knight is in 51st.
So that brings us to the interviews. First up is the winner of this event, Matthew Thunhorst. Matt, we talked in the race about how the drivers don't necessarily know if they are close or if they're on pace to try and catch the MX-5s towards the end. Did you know? Did you have anybody in your ear? And if not, at what point did you feel like it was possible?
Well, I'll put it this way, that Dottinger Ho at the very end, it's really good for looking at the standings. And so coming to 2 to go, I saw that I was, I think, like 2 minutes, a minute and a half behind. And I realized if the Porsches didn't get me, I knew I had a real shot unless I shot myself in the foot. So it was really hard those last 2 laps, keeping the nerves down, having Blake behind me, knowing if I made a big mistake, he was going to snatch it. So that was really intense.
Yeah, and I'm glad you bring up Blake, because we were both very impressed that you had the pace on Blake Reynolds. I mean, that has to feel really good, knowing the kind of driver he is everywhere we go and every car we go, that you pulled one over on him today.
Yeah, and I mean, really straight up pace, especially after we went through the Mazdas the first time. I knew him and Travis were gone, so I knew it was even more important to stick to my 2-stop strategy, and that's basically what made the difference. And once I got out in front, I was able to get lucky with how I caught traffic. And I don't know, I saw that my gap was extending. It was coming out of the pits 6 seconds, and then last lap it was like 10 seconds, and I felt really comfortable and backed it down to 90%. It was just, I can't believe it. I won at the Nürburgring.
Congratulations. Is this your first victory in the majors?
And this my first this year. It's my third overall, which shockingly being a really good oval driver, I'm really shocked that they're all somehow on road events. So, but I think this one probably has to go to Jason Fleischle. Shout out to him because he was the one that built the setup I drove, and he wasn't able to race today. But if it wasn't for him and the other guys helping me out to figure this track out even better than I did last year, I wouldn't have been in this position.
Well, I can tell you, if you consider oval your strength and your focus, and you've got 3 wins on the road, one of them at the ring, I think maybe you should consider changing disciplines. So, Matt, congratulations. That was incredibly well run, and you looked flawless today.
Thank you much, Joe.
That was Matthew Thunhorst, our winner. Up next, I believe Sean has Blake Reynolds ready to talk to him with second place in the Kia.
Always love talking to Blake Reynolds, fellow Texan Blake Reynolds. And Blake, it was tough getting to P2. Talk to us about that. What was that? I'm a fan of the Predator format. I don't know exactly where you stand on it, but what was it like getting through the field today?
Yeah, I'm a fan of the Predator format. Usually I come out on top, and I felt like I did today, but I'm not really happy with myself in that race. I felt like I missing a lot of corners. I didn't nail the setup at all. The track got super hot there at the end, and my car just could not turn. And Oki, when he was near me, was just hounding me, and I couldn't do anything. And then on that last stop, I was just sorry. Go ahead.
No. Go ahead. You finish, please.
All right. Yeah. So, so I was trying to get away from Oki, and I just decided I'd pit with 4 to go instead of 2. I filled it up to what I thought I needed. Again, took too much. You guys know I'm really bad at fuel mileage and calculation and all that. But yeah, I was jumped, I guess. I don't know what to say.
Well, okay, so you talked about the track heating up. I mean, had you guys seen that in practice at all this week? It looks like it swung about 17 degrees from where we started.
Yeah, that's pretty dramatic. No, there's nothing in practice. The thing is, with the majors practice, they're 24/7, 6-hour sessions each, and there's not near that many cars on track. There's maybe max 20, and with that many cars running, and I didn't even know it was 17 degrees. That's a lot.
Yeah,
my set was terrible then.
Well, I got to be honest. Joe and I we were joking a little bit during the broadcast about how the tires on the Kia just squeal. I mean, they just at a high pitch. It seemed like you were driving the wheels off of for most of the race, especially when you were trying to keep Oki out of your mirror. Talk about his pace. How much experience do you have racing that guy?
I don't think I've ever raced Oki. I know he's in the pro split a lot, but like when it comes to where we're pretty even, like an IndyCar race or a plate race, I don't really see him. Yeah.
Yeah, he had tremendous pace, but yeah, listen, you got the best of just about everybody except Thunhorst. P2, you got to be pretty happy to walk away with that. It's a great day for points for you, and we congratulate you, my friend, and look forward to seeing you, in the big show next time we do this.
Yep, Indy 500 is always fun. Thanks, guys.
All right, and our thanks to Blake Reynolds. Another great drive by him in another majors event. And Joe, I believe that leaves Brian Bennett for soup.
I do. I got him. He is our 4th place finisher, our top Mazda driver. Brian, hard enough to race without doing an algebra problem. When did you know that you and L'Herbier were in trouble with those Kias?
Honestly, coming into the last lap, I thought we had a chance, or somewhere last time I looked. But then, next time I look up and the gap was down to 20 seconds or so when we were like leaving the GP course, it's like, yeah, we don't have a chance. So that was that. And then he and I had a little agreement where we're going to try to not slow each other down. And it was probably pretty obvious that we were cooperating a bit. Yeah. And I made it. The first mistake actually set me up pretty good on the last lap. That was going to set me up for a nice gap where I could have a full head of steam on come that final straightaway. But then I made another one near the end, so that was that. I finished 4th, and actually Herbier was the lead Mazda. He got me.
One of the commentators was questioning your strategy to stay out a lap longer when L'Herbier came in. It seemed to work out for you. Why'd you do that?
Well, I had just, I made my plan for the event pretty much last Sunday. Sunday, I did a 14-lap stint. I went 10 laps and then 4 to finish. I thought I'd probably do the same thing today, unless there was some reason I needed to break traffic. And no, if I had pitted at the same time as him, assuming we take the same amount of fuel, we just come out nose to tail again. Instead, I came out a fair bit ahead of him, but he ran me back down. He seemed to have speed on me in certain sections for sure. And I don't know how long the draft is in that car, but it was effective, at least well over 2 seconds. I don't know how long it is.
2
nowadays.
sounds about right.
Get you out of here on this one. Did you start your iRacing career in the Mazda MX-5?
No. Well, I guess we all did kind of in rookies, but no, I was a spec Ford racer guy for a long time. And then I switched over to the Mazdas and your former series that you ran, the Blondies. And but ever since I really got hooked into the majors, this is where it's been. But I do enjoy this car. It's just a good time.
It was good to see you back in those little MX-5s. Congratulations, 4th place finish, 2nd in the MX-5s. Good luck down the road.
Thank you, sir. Thanks to the promoters again, all the hard work and modifying the, making some changes today to get it a little bit more competitive here. The Kias were.
It was fun. Thanks, Brian. Joe.
Yep, and it's always awesome to see how many people that the MX-5 World Tour has touched over the years. There's a lot of drivers that have participated, but we got to close up. And of course, we want to thank a few people before we do so. Big thanks to Mike Willett and his entire team behind the scenes that puts these races on. It's not just us and not just the sportsman split here, but also multiple races between the pro and sportsman over in Euro and in the international. So that is a lot to take care of. We appreciate them a bunch. Again, if you want to donate to the charity for this round, it is autismspeaks.org. Check them out when you have the opportunity. And a big thank you goes out to iRacing for putting us on the iRacing Esports Network. Make sure and subscribe to them by going to their YouTube page and clicking on subscribe. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. And additional thanks go out to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, Amjad, Bill, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. You can also check us out on social media. We're on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. The next race, this one's important to me. It is the Indy 500 over at Indianapolis in the IR18. That'll be May 19th at 7:45 p.m. Eastern. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.